Chapter 55-56. The next day, Emolien happily sent his son away. He took his wife's hand and said with a smile, "Jojo, let's walk around too." "All right." Arbor nodded. Since he planned to open a Jojo's restaurant in the Holy Land, he naturally had to walk around and look at the place. Arbor told Emolien about his plan. Emolien's phoenix eyes lit up slightly. "Jojo, you can't stand it anymore, can you? You want to lead the people of the Holy Land to become rich?" Lord Jojo looked at his husband expressionlessly. "You're thinking too much." He was sure that he wasn't overthinking things. He knew Xiao Xiao very well. She must be thinking, why don't these idiots of the Holy Land even know how to build a house? Or perhaps, the people of the Holy Land actually live such a miserable life. How did they get to where they are today with their cultivation base of the transcendent realm? Trash, 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 a bunch of trash. Lord Jojo's small face did not show any expression. He took a few steps forward and suddenly turned his head to look at his husband suspiciously. "You've been staring at Jojo with strange eyes." Emolien's eyes lit up. He quickly floated to his wife's side and raised his hand to pick her up. He smiled and said, "Wife, I know that you're a person with a hard mouth but a soft heart. You must have thought of a good way to rebuild this broken place, right? These people don't have the Holy Spirit in their hands, so they're not willing to build a house to make themselves more comfortable. It's strange. Although some people might have their own storage spiritual artifacts and could go in to catch up on sleep, not everyone had them. Teach a man to fish rather than give him a fish." Lord Jojo snorted and said, "The water, wood, and earth spirit talismans I drew now contain the power of the Holy Spirit. If they use it to build a house, one spirit talisman is enough for a single room, and 2 spirit talismans for a double room. If you want to build a small bamboo house like ours, 10 talismans will suffice." Instead of racking his brains to think of ways to steal Jojo's house, he might as well save some money and buy a talisman to make himself. "Jojo, you're too good to them," Emolien said with a smile. "Son, where did you say you were going to school?" "It seems to be." The two of them walked along the white fog and suddenly heard a sudden noise. Soon, he saw several figures flying over within 3 feet of him. The person at the front was carrying a boy in his arms and was running towards them. Behind him were dozens of men, each of them moving at lightning speed, pouncing over like arrows. Xiao Mu calmly pulled her husband and flashed back 2 steps. The dozen or so men shouted in unison and threw out a spirit-locking rope, grabbing the person at the front. More than a dozen people swarmed up and pressed the man who was holding the boy to the ground. "Hold him down, this is outrageous." Li Yang rushed over anxiously and shouted in exasperation. Following behind him was a handsome young man. He looked around and frowned. When he looked up, he suddenly saw Emolien and her husband. The young man immediately smiled and hurried over to greet them. "Your Excellency Emolien, Madame Emo, you're here too. Master Dongfang has something to do. You don't have to worry about us." Emolien nodded at him calmly. Chapter 55-57. It's nothing serious. Master Dongfang politely salutes the two of them. A large wave of ascended cultivators came to the sacred region a few days ago, and all of them were powerful cultivators. This matter naturally alarmed the stewards of the sacred region. Master Dongfang and Master Bei are the only 2 stewards left. On the day Emolien and the others came, the 2 of them came to visit them together. It was a test, and also a friendly relationship. The motto of Emolien and the others is that as long as they don't take the initiative to look for trouble, they won't bother. Master Jojo looks at the dozen people pressing the man holding the child to the ground and frowns. "What are they doing?" "Madam, don't worry. We don't want to make things difficult for them. It's just that according to the rules of the sacred region, this Mr. Liang wants to break through the barrier and send his child out. He must be punished. Arbor doesn't know what's going on, so he can only stand aside and watch. The man surnamed Liang has already been caught by the others." A pillar of earth rises from the ground. Liang retracts his palm and roars, "Press it! Hit!" At the same time the whip falls, the man surnamed Liang cries out, let me go, let me go! You want to force our family to death." Master Dongfang, Do you have any pity or sympathy? Master Dongfang sighs and shakes his head with a heavy expression. No one can try to open the natural barrier of the sacred region. Everyone who ascends to the sacred region can't go back. You know that. Arbor says in his heart. No wonder the saint-grade summoning talisman I drew may not be able to summon the people of the sacred region one by one. Back then, to be able to attract rotten peach blossoms, what kind of luck did he have? Sob, the man cries out and mutters to himself nervously. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have given birth to the child with Ahua back then. Child, it's father who harmed you, child. Child. The boy is only 7 or 8 years old. He's so thin that he's just skin and bones. There's no flesh on his small face. His whole body is curled up in Li Yang's hand, trembling. Master Dongfang, can I ask you something? Madam, please speak. Dongfang Yu was very polite to Emolian and her husband. It couldn't be helped. The strength of this young woman's husband was unfathomable. Even he himself couldn't see through his cultivation. At such a young age, he had already surpassed Master Dongfang's immortal venerable realm cultivation. It was truly hard to describe. Why is this person trying to break the barrier and send the child to the lower realm? I'm ashamed to say this, but it's all because of the lack of resources in the Saint region. This child looked like he hadn't even broken through to the spirit realm. I can't fast for a long time, so I'm so hungry that I'm all skin and bones. Master Dongfang said with a sigh. Arbor blinked. Did he want to escape from prison because of hunger? Who would believe such a thing? The child of a transcendent realm expert could not survive in the holy realm, and had to escape prison to make a living. Arbor couldn't help but look up at her husband. Although her husband didn't say anything, he couldn't suppress the smile on his face. Why was he holding back his laughter? Lord Jojo rolled his eyes and took a step forward. He's been punished. I think he knows that he's in the wrong. Since it's the rules of the holy realm, everyone has to abide by them. However, under the law, there's nothing more than human feelings. This Mr. Liang is also doing this because he loves his son. Master Dongfang nodded. Madam is right. Chapter 55-58. Master Dongfang waved his hand with a solemn expression, and had Liang bring his men to untie Mr. Liang. Mr. Liang, who was a mystique venerable, cried bitterly and reached out to hug his son. He sobbed, Master, kill me, Master. Master, please kill me. I really can't take it anymore. I can't bear to watch my son die tragically on the spot. Ha! Although Master Dongfang wanted to keep his handsome face straight, he could not hold it in for a long time. His entire body collapsed. Nonsense! Master Dongfang squeezed out these 2 words after holding it in for a long time. Arbor could not help but ask Jojo's Lotus in a low voice. Husband, are these people mentally retarded? Emolian held back the smile on her lips and coughed softly. Jojo, you have to understand them. I can't understand. Arbor's face was full of astonishment. He also lowered his voice and said, These people are all transcendents. The lowest is Mystique Venerable. They're actually living so miserably in such a broken place. How could this be tolerated? But think about it. This place is surrounded by white fog. There's no vegetation around, and sunlight can't penetrate in. They can't grow crops or grow rice. Naturally, there's less and less food to eat day by day. Some people have been in the holy region for decades. Even if there's food in their inner worlds, it should have been eaten by their children long ago. Emolian whispered beside his wife. It's not difficult for them to abstain from eating for a year and a half when they've reached Mystique Venerable, but their children can't. No wonder Mr. Liang cried so miserably. Arbor stood there and observed for a long time. He realized that Mr. Liang was like a person with a mental illness. If there was a rope in front of him at this moment, he would definitely go up and commit suicide. He did not look like the high and mighty transcendence in the eyes of the world. Ridiculous. Mr. Liang threw himself beside his master and cried bitterly. In the end, it was Liang who could not stand his miserable wails. He took out 2 hard steamed buns from his inner world and threw them to him. It could be considered as charity, or a gift. Arbor took a look and felt his mouth go dry. The dried and petrified appearance of the steamed bun was a little scary. To actually be able to chew on such a thing, He could be said to be a ruthless person. Arbor thought for a moment and said, I have some winter fruits here. You. Mr. Liang jumped in front of Arbor with a whoosh. His eyes were practically shining. Yes, yes, yes. Young madam, name your price. Arbor said expressionlessly. I don't need spirit stones or spirit tools. Take a look at what forging materials you have on you. Recently, her family's small cauldron lacked good forging materials to feed it. Although the 9 stars were lit up, the crescent moon in the middle was still dim. It was said that there were not many other things in the Holy Realm, but there were a lot of ores and materials. Presumably, these transcendent realm experts had nothing to do, so they would dig and mine for materials. Xiao Mu's words simply struck a chord with this Mr. Liang. What is the most abundant thing in Mr. Liang's inner world? Refining materials were the most abundant. But what was the use of these things? Firstly, he did not know how to refine weapons, and secondly, it was useless. To be able to exchange materials for food was simply overjoyed for him. Yes, yes, yes. I still have Xian's spirit jade here. Do you want it, madam? Arbor's eyes lit up. Xian's spirit jade could be used to feed the holy wood, water, or holy beasts. Naturally, the more the better. Sure, she said calmly. Chapter 55-59. She took out a bag of winter fruits from her inner world. Mr. Liang cried tears of joy, and almost knelt down in front of Madame Emo. Madam, you're my son's reincarnated parent. Emo Lian's lips twitched, and she hurriedly stopped him. Don't. We have a son. Mr. Liang wiped his tears, and hurriedly poured out a pile of materials from his inner world. Arbor hurriedly stopped him. It's enough, there's no need for so much. It's a fair deal. And my bag of winter fruits isn't anything expensive. Just give me 5 black-level materials, or 1 earth-level material. Mr. Liang was so touched that tears welled up in his eyes. He felt that these materials were useless, and the bag of winter fruits that this kind little madam gave him probably weighed 5 kilograms. It was enough for his son to eat for more than half a month. Madam, you've saved my life, and you've given me a new lease on life. Take these, and these. This is just a small token of my appreciation. Arbor looked at him speechlessly. You should keep some for yourself. Tomorrow, I'll open the first pavilion of the Holy Region in the center of the Eastern region. It specializes in selling food and fruits. If you're interested, you can come and take a look. I'm interested, I'm very interested. Mr. Liang nodded and hurriedly said, Madam, you don't know, but the barrier of the Holy Region is very powerful. Once you enter, you can't leave. Do you have a lot of food? You have to think about the future. Mr. Liang glanced at Jojo. He couldn't tell what realm he was at. He looked at Emo Lian, and couldn't see through her. Both of them were probably at a higher realm than him. Judging from their age, they looked to be in their early 20s. Presumably, they were talented and intelligent people. Now that they had ascended to the Holy Region, the young couple was still insensible. They were squandering the food resources in their inner world now, and didn't know how miserable they would be in the future. As an experienced person, Mr. Liang felt that he should give this young couple some advice. Madam, you have to hold back. You can't sell all the food. In the Holy Region, those materials are worthless. The most expensive thing is the ingredients. I'm afraid you two don't know. It was 30 years ago when I ascended to the Saint Domain. Mr. Liang said affectionately. He lifted his chin slightly, and the corners of his eyes were a little moist. At that time, I was so high-spirited and wanted to make a big career out of it. Master Dongfang couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Were there so many drama queens in the Eastern region? Unfortunately, the sacred region is shrouded in fog all year round, and no sunlight can be seen. My wife and I fell in love with each other vigorously. I thought that it would add color to our monotonous life. Who knows, I only know what it means to be miserable after I have a baby. Mr. Liang couldn't help but cry when he spoke of his misery. Madame Emo said expressionlessly, She's already given birth, you can't put it back. That's right. Mr. Liang nodded. All these years, I've been filled with regret. The child can't be sent out of the sacred region, and his aptitude is not good enough. He's already 8 years old, but he still hasn't broken through to the spirit realm and hasn't been able to eat. He's so skinny and sallow from hunger. As his father, I feel bitter just looking at him. Young madam, as someone who has been through this before, I still want to give you some advice. If you can keep some food. In the future, even if you and your wife don't need it, your child will. Chapter 5560. Madame Emo really wanted to tell this fellow in front of her that her child didn't need it either. As someone who had half a foot in the transcendent realm, her child really had no problem not eating for a year and a half. But looking at this transcendent realm cultivator's miserable appearance, Madame Emo still chose to remain silent. It was better not to attack others anymore. Her husband had once said a few years ago that she must not tell others about refining countless pills in one night to avoid being beaten to death. This was called flaunting one's wealth. Flaunting one's wealth really shouldn't be done. Actually, you can eat fasting pills. Mr. Liang slapped his thigh. Yes, but fasting pills will decrease the more you eat them. Now a fasting pill is sold at a sky-high price. After all, this place was barren, so it was impossible to harvest raw materials. The fasting pills in everyone's hands were all brought up from the lower realm, so they naturally had fewer pills. Even if there were heaven-grade alchemists in the holy region, they couldn't cook without rice. It wasn't like he could make pills out of thin air, right? Arbor looked at him expressionlessly. Do you want them? Emolien. Master Dongfang hurriedly walked forward and looked at the little stoic with shining eyes. Madam Emo, if you have extra fasting pills, can you give a few to me? I'm willing to use 10 black-grade forging materials to exchange for 3 fasting pills. Sure. Arbor nodded. Mr. Liang was excited. I'll use 30 to exchange for 9 pills. Okay. Arbor thought for a moment, and still had Qiuqiu pick out 12 fasting pills from the basket and put them in a box. He took them out and handed them to the two of them. You can divide them yourselves. Master Dongfang accepted 3 pills with a smile and handed the remaining box to Mr. Liang. Mr. Liang looked embarrassed and whispered while holding the box, Little madam, do you want to keep some for yourself? Arbor thought to himself, I should have taken out the whole basket of fasting pills for them to see just now. Then they wouldn't be so embarrassed. These fasting pills were all made by my son for fun. None of them had any use for these fasting pills, so they were just sitting around and looking at them. After bidding farewell to Master Dongfang and the others, Arbor tilted his head and looked at Emolien. Why don't we stop selling cooked food and just sell some ingredients and fruits? He could even sell fasting pills. I really didn't expect this. The corners of Emolien's eyes twitched. Half a year ago, his son became obsessed with alchemy. Every day, he squatted beside the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron and refined this and that. Every time he refined a large number of pills, they were all useless. What fasting pills, detoxification pills, etc. Her son had refined too many of these things and threw them all into baskets. Baskets after baskets were thrown into the storehouse. Alas! Arbor let out a long sigh and said regretfully, I didn't realize we were so rich before. Now that we're here, the contrast between us and these starving people is too stark. Emolien mumbled softly, It's always been distinct. It was just that the people of the 3 states had never been so miserable. Their misery had been greatly magnified here, as well as Jojo's wealth. I hope I can feed the small cauldron until it is completely bright. In this way, the refining speed of the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron, as well as the quality of the pills, and the success rate would definitely increase. Master Jojo's little abacus rang loudly in his heart. He couldn't help but smile. The holy region was indeed a good place. Jojo was starting to like this place. What should he do? Since there were so many materials here, Jojo had to send people to mine them. He heard that the spirit stone mines here were like cabbages. Chapter 5561. Only when a holy stone mine was mined would it attract many cultivators to fight over it. After all, it was closely related to one's cultivation level. No one would not care. The two followed the white fog and walked forward hand in hand for a while. Emolien smiled and said, I see the sign. The wooden sign of the boy branch of the Sacred Academy was floating up and down in the thick fog. There didn't seem to be anyone in front. The couple wanted to see their son on the way, but after walking one round, they didn't see a single student. A middle-aged man in a blue robe appeared in the thick fog beside them. Seeing the two of them, he was obviously stunned. Then he cupped his hands and said, "You are? Oh, we came to see how the children of the boy branch are doing in school." The middle-aged man smiled bitterly. "Today the boy branch ended school early. The two of you must be here to look for your children. I'm afraid you've already gone back." Xiaomu blinked her eyes, and a bad premonition instantly surfaced in her heart. She felt that her son seemed to be up to no good again. "You're a teacher? My surname is Wang." "Teacher Wang." Teacher Wang waved his hand and said, "I'm a teacher of the youth branch. Today, I'm here to replace Teacher Zhang of the boy branch, to go to a student surnamed Mo's house to understand the situation." Emma Lian's mouth twitched, and she silently glanced at her wife. Xiaomu hastily asked, "Did something very serious happen?" Teacher Wang of the youth branch smiled bitterly and said, "The two of you are here to look for your children, so I might as well be frank. Today, that student surnamed Emo led a group of students to play truant. Emo Lian, both of your children should have gone with them. If you want to find your children, you have to find that student surnamed Emo first. By the way, what's the name of your children?" "Emo Xiao," Sir Jojo said expressionlessly. "Teacher, after talking for so long, the two of you are the parents of that student surnamed Emo, who led the mischievous students." Teacher Wang was furious. "Young master, madam, do you know? Today, not only did your child bring a group of children to roast sweet potatoes during her free time, but she also brought a group of children to roast sweet potatoes. She even skipped school with all the children." Emolian coughed and hurriedly said, "I didn't know before, but now I know. Don't worry, teacher. When we go back, we will definitely discipline that child good." Jojo remained expressionless. "The child is hungry." These words made the couple blush a little. Their child had already abstained from eating. However, according to Jojo's tradition, 3 meals a day were unavoidable. "I am indeed hungry. Sigh. I know that the conditions in the sacred region are tough. The children have also suffered, but if they don't study hard now and become illiterate, they will only suffer more in the future. Oh, by the way, I heard from Teacher Zhang that your child is extraordinarily intelligent and has a keen aptitude. He is indeed very intelligent, but he can't lead a group of students to skip class." Emo Lian nodded repeatedly. "Teacher, you're right. I'll teach him a lesson later. Then, do you know where your child will go?" "I do." Arbor nodded, and 3 revealed talismans instantly shot out from his fingertips. The air in front of them distorted slightly, and they stirred up like water ripples. Soon, the dozen or so children who were roasting sweet potatoes in a circle appeared in the invisibility talisman array. Baby Emo was holding a sweet potato in his hand, and he exchanged a look with his stoic mother. Chapter 55-62. Our dear baby Emo floated all the way back by himself, and he even floated away like a thief. As soon as he reached the court's entrance, he wailed bitterly and looked for his foster father. Duan Yu had just walked out of the room when he saw a child rapidly plummeting from midair and leaping into his arms with a whoosh. "Foster father, save me." This little imp wailed prettily and wailed loudly on all fours. "What happened?" Duan Yu quickly hugged him. Baby Emo scrunched up his miserable little face and whined while sobbing. "Mommy and Daddy beat me. They beat me all the way back home. They're especially fierce. Foster father, little Furball's heart is very bitter." Duan Yu almost couldn't hold back his laughter. Barely suppressing the smile on his lips, Duan Yu hugged him straight. "Little Furball, what did you do this time?" Baby Emo scrunched up his small face and pitifully said, "Little Furball treated my classmates to sweet potatoes." "Treating your classmates to sweet potatoes is a good thing. Why would mommy punish you?" "I used an invisibility talisman matrix." Our dear baby Emo quietly muttered. "Teacher Zhang was so anxious that he searched everywhere for us." "So you're being naughty again, right?" Duan Yu poked his forehead lightly. Meanwhile, The stoic Xiao approached Bamboo Garden with her small paws behind her back and hollered, "Mo Xiao, come down." Everyone kept quiet out of fear. Our dear baby. Mo timidly climbed down from his foster father's body and pitifully shrunk to the side with his small paws. Arbor angrily demanded with a frosty expression, "Do you admit your wrongs?" Baby Mo sobbed on the side while Sir Guangguang wiped his tears with him. "Do you think it's very fun to tease the teacher?" Arbor angrily retorted. "It's fine if you're naughty, but you brought a group of children to fool around with you. Tell me, are you wrong or not?" "Jojo," Mo Lian meekly called out. "Shut up." Mr. Jojo interrupted angrily. Poor Mr. Mo quickly shut his mouth and did not dare to make a sound. After sending her son a helpless look, Mo Lian quietly moved to Duan Yu's side, and the two of them secretly exchanged a look. The clueless Duan Yu, "What's going on?" Mo Lian, oh no. Our son has really offended his mother this time. Usually, your grandparents spoiled you, and your uncles and aunts all let you do whatever you want. I've spoiled you to the heavens. You don't even know the simple principle of respecting your teacher. Do you still think it's right?" Arbor reprimanded harshly. There was complete silence all around. "Everyone in school calls you Big Brother leader. How awe-inspiring. Who are you leading? What big brother? If the parents of those children can't find their children today, what will you do? Are talisman matrices for you to use blindly like this?" Supremacy Peach Blossom and Holy Sun Miyan, who had heard the news, glanced suspiciously at Duan Yu and Mo Lian. Mo Lian secretly waved her hand at them, meaning not to poke the hornet's nest. Jojo was currently in a fit of anger, so whoever tried to persuade him would be unlucky. Whoever went up would be looking for a beating. Our dear baby. Mo was a bit scared out of his wits when he saw his mother harshly reprimanding him like this for the first time. After staring blankly for a long time, he saw that his mother had finished lecturing him and angrily turned to enter the room, slamming the door with a bang. The child started bawling and aggrievedly turned his small head to look in his daddy's direction. Chapter 55-63. How would Mo Lian dare to oppose his wife just now? If he dared to speak up for his son, he would definitely be bombarded by his wife's verbal barrage. She might even dig up the matter of him spoiling his brother-in-law back then and give him another scolding. When he saw his son looking at him with teary eyes, his heart instantly softened, and he hastily walked up to pick up the sobbing little fella. Oh you, why are you so naughty? You caught your mother red-handed." Ma Shurchen was exasperated. "Daddy, what do we do now?" Baby Mo asked while sobbing. His pair of phoenix eyes were wide open as he stared at his father. "Mommy is ignoring me." Baby Mo wailed pitifully. "Does Mommy not want little furball anymore?" "How could that be?" Mo Lian quickly consoled. "Mommy is only angry at you for being naughty. If you obediently and sensibly apologize to Mommy, then Mommy will definitely forgive you." Baby Mo blinked his watery eyes and nodded repeatedly. "I'll go apologize right now." The little fella pressed a hand to his chest and cried bitterly. "Godfather, whenever little Furball thinks about how Mommy will ignore little Furball in the future, little Furball's heart hurts so much." Duan Yu and the others couldn't resist twitching their mouths. They were originally quite worried, but when they saw this clown, they couldn't help laughing in exasperation. "Do you want Daddy to go in with you to admit your mistake?" It was hard being a father. Fathers had to take the blame for their sons' mistakes. Baby Mo shook his head solemnly. "Forget it. Your son will bear the consequences of his own actions. I'll go by myself. You all stay here and don't move." Duan Yu's mouth twitched. This child was quite loyal. Everyone was both amused and annoyed as they watched him stride forward with his short legs. With a heroic look on his face, he ran to the second floor of the small bamboo building and knocked on Jojo's door. Baby Mo peeked his head out uneasily and peeked inside the room. At that time, Sir Jojo was leaning against a brocade couch and absent-mindedly flipping through a book. He was thinking, was I too strict with my son just now? Xiao Tuanzi was still young and was at the age when she was naughty and playful. Thinking about her when she was 7 or 8 years old, she was also so mischievous. She even went around beating people with a ruler. How should he explain this, mother? Mo Baobao's childish voice called out, and he ran in with his short legs. He knelt down in front of Jojo, giving her a fright. The little guy raised a ferrule over his head with both hands, blinked his eyes, and said with a serious face, "Mother, beat your son. Don't be angry after beating up your son." Arbor didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but his little face was still tense. "Get up." She reached out and picked him up, saying indifferently, "Don't kneel here and there for no reason." Baby Mo said in a childish voice, "Isn't it natural to kneel to the heavens, to kneel to the earth, and to kneel to our parents and teachers? Mother, you don't have to feel embarrassed. I'll give you the ruler. Hit him hard." Arbor was so infuriated that she laughed. She lifted him to her face and smacked his butt. "Who feels embarrassed?" Baby Mo took advantage of the situation to roll into his mother's arms, and hugged his mother and rubbed against her. "Mother, Xiao Tuanzi knows his mistake. I won't dare to do it again in the future. How about this? If mother still feels angry, I'll call daddy in and let mother beat him up. How about that? You really are a filial son." Arbor couldn't help but laugh in anger. Chapter 55-64. Your father cheated your grandfather, and you cheated your father. This may be the Mo family's tradition. Sir Jojo rubbed his son's soft head and said faintly. The boy's eyes lit up. "Mother, you're not angry anymore? Don't do it again." The boy nodded repeatedly. How would he dare to do it again? Who knew that joking with the teacher would provoke his mother's anger? The boy would never dare to do it again. "Mother," a classmate fainted from hunger while studying. Arbor was silent. "That's why I brought everyone to roast sweet potatoes. The students all say that the sweet potatoes I roast are fragrant and sweet. Everyone loves to eat them. But you can't fool the teacher. Make an invisibility talisman array, and make it easy for people to find you." Arbor placed her son in front of her, and held his little hand. "If the boy suddenly disappears, don't you think mother and father will be worried?" "Yes. So put yourself in their shoes. If the parents of your classmates find out that their children have mysteriously disappeared, won't they be worried?" The boy blinked and nodded repeatedly. "Mother, I'm wrong. So before we do anything, we have to think carefully and maturely before we decide to take the next step. Mother knows that Xiao Tuanzi actually knows everything, and has learned everything. You've learned everything the teacher taught." Arbor reached out and rubbed her son's head. "Mother just hopes that our family's little dumpling can go to school to meet new friends. Grow up happily like an ordinary child, and don't come into contact with the troublesome matters of imperial power too quickly." The boy nodded and his eyes suddenly lit up. "Then I'll invite my classmates to eat at our house next time. Is that okay?" "Of course." Xiao Mu smiled faintly. Xiao Tuanzi's eyes immediately brightened a bit, and he shouted, "Mother is smiling! Father, father, mother is smiling!" The little dumpling loved his mother the most. "I love to see mother smile." Mo Lian paced outside for a while, and finally couldn't help but push the door open and run in. He saw his wife sitting there with the child in her arms. Her eyes were crescent-shaped. She suddenly felt that her son's head was bright and shiny. She really wanted to throw this child out. Father Mo resisted the urge to abandon his child, and quickly walked forward. He pulled his wife into his arms and said, "Wife, let me make it clear first. You can't vent your anger on me when you're angry with our son. Also, my son is my son, and I am me. A son's stupidity could be taught slowly. I'm a flower, and I need to be nourished." As he spoke, he took out a pot of black lotus from his inner world, and showed it to Jojo. "Jojo, look at the pot of flowers you gave me. It's grown so well." Arbor reached out and hit him on the head. He couldn't help but smile. Baby Mo's eyes widened as he cried out angrily, "Daddy is shameless." Mo Lian increasingly felt that this child was truly too much of an eyesore by staying here at a time like this. "Go play with your uncles." Mo Lian carried the child to the door. Baby Mo clung to his arm, and shook his head repeatedly. "No, I won't. I want to be together with mother. Mother, mother. Imperial grandmother. Imperial father wants to throw the boy away." Mo Lian said expressionlessly, "Your imperial grandmother is far away in the divine continent." Arbor got up and ran over. He took the child from Emolien's arms and glared at him. Chapter 55-65. Since his wife was glaring at him, Emolien had no choice but to turn around and glare at his son. Baby Emo refused to let go of Arbor and kept rubbing against her neck, calling out cutely, "Mommy, mommy, Daddy is naughty." Emolien smiled faintly. "Do you want to be beaten?" This child was so annoying. Emolien carried the child over and placed him on the table at the side, then picked up his beloved wife. "Jojo, why did you hit me just now? Take a look at this pot of lotus you gave me. Is it well taken care of?" Arbor wanted to laugh, but she suppressed it and nodded seriously. "It's pretty good. Of course it's great. I've been taking good care of it." Emolien smiled and leaned closer to her, whispering, "You're not angry anymore?" "Mommy is definitely not angry anymore. Mommy loves Little Furball the most. How can Mommy keep being angry at Little Furball?" Baby Emo huffed and spun around Emolien's legs. He wanted to climb up, but his father didn't like him. How infuriating. "Wife, he's annoying," Arbor retorted exasperatedly. "You're the one who's annoying." Baby Mo's eyes lit up when he heard that, and he nodded repeatedly. Right, you're the annoying one, you're the annoying one. Don't always come and disturb me and Mommy in our two-person world. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have asked you to come and see Mommy's smiling face." Emolien's mouth twitched. Xiaomu couldn't resist snickering before bursting into laughter. Father and son looked at her with smiles on their faces. Emolien smiled and said, "How about we put the first tower of the Holy Region aside for now? I think our son needs a school where he can squat." To prevent today's incident from happening again, it wasn't easy for him to send his son to school, so he wouldn't have to disturb the couple during the day. Could he still make him roll back here? Impossible. Hearing this, Baby Emo lay down beside the two of them and looked up to ask, "Mother, are you going to build a school for us?" Arbor thought for a moment and nodded. "Consider it a good deed. We'll build the Boy Branch Academy. When the time comes, you can come and help." "Yay!" Baby Emo nodded happily. The next day, the family of 3 went to the Sacred Academy and explained the situation to the dean. The dean was naturally overjoyed and nodded repeatedly to express his welcome. The 2-story bamboo house that Jojo and the others lived in was now famous in the Sacred Region. There was no other reason. This was the first house ever built in the Sacred Region. Moreover, inside the house, the thick fog was isolated outside, so people could see more clearly. Such good news had suddenly descended upon the Academy of Holy Light. The dean was extremely excited. However, Arbor also said that they were only building the Boy Branch Academy for free. As for the Academy's juvenile and youth academies that needed to be built, the Academy would have to pay for them. The dean expressed his understanding. As long as the bamboo building could be built, it would be a great thing. The dean wasn't someone who didn't understand the ways of the world. He naturally knew that the other party was only building the Boy Branch Academy for free to give his son a better learning environment. Originally, everyone had thought that building the Boy Branch Academy would take at least 4 to 5 days. However, Jojo and the others had a lot of people and were very fast. In less than half a day, the construction of the Boy Branch Academy was completed. This really caused a stir in the Sacred Region. The shoujo that came after hearing the news curiously surrounded the Boy Branch Academy. Chapter 55-66. The meddlesome cultivators secretly asked around and found out that Arbor had actually helped Sacred Institute build a boy branch for free. They couldn't help but feel envious. After decades of living in desolation, suddenly seeing a house made his heart itch unbearably. Everyone rushed forward to ask about the house. There were even more meddlesome cultivators who looked at Arbor in confusion, secretly asking, "Why does this madam's inner world seem to have an endless supply of bamboo? This madam seems to be a great talisman master." A middle-aged cultivator lowered his voice and said. Everyone was enlightened when they heard this. It turned out that these bamboo were brought up using storage talismans. But if they had many storage talismans, they would definitely bring more food, drinks, and daily necessities, right? This madam was really a weirdo, bringing so much bamboo in her storage talisman? Could it be that she knew before ascending that there were no houses to live in the sacred region? Just now, this madam said that the sacred region's first tower will be opened in the center of the eastern region tomorrow. If we are interested, we can go take a look. I heard that they will sell bamboo and jade talismans. Oh right, they also said that they will sell ingredients. When everyone heard this, their eyes couldn't help but light up. Sell ingredients? This madam was sure she wanted to sell ingredients? Ingredients were very precious in the sacred region. The more one ate, the less one had. The sacred region was vast and sparsely populated, but in the entire eastern region, there were at least hundreds of thousands of cultivators. In all these years, although there were only a few tens of thousands of people who ascended to the sacred region, in addition to cultivation, they had given birth to many children. The eastern region now had the largest population in the sacred region. If all the cultivators in the eastern region heard the news and came to the sacred region's first tower to buy ingredients, the middle-aged cultivator who spoke couldn't help but shudder. The sacred region's first tower would collapse, right? Moreover, how many ingredients could they have, and how many days could they sell them? 1 day or 2 days? Or 3 days? What a joke! A sarcastic laugh came from the crowd. The one who spoke was a female cultivator. She was thin like a bamboo pole, with corn-like eyes and an upturned nose. Her appearance was somewhat frightening. Arbor glanced at her, but didn't say anything. The dean personally sent everyone out of the boy branch and made an appointment with her to go to Sanctuary number 1 tomorrow afternoon to look at the price of the materials. Lady May, lower your voice. The surrounding Shioja didn't want to offend Arbor's group. The female cultivator, however, was not the least bit afraid of Arbor and the others. She continued to mock them. What? Did I say something wrong? Anyone with a brain would know. This kind of boring consumption is meaningless. What are you showing off for? So what if this woman was an extremely rare grand talisman master in the saint level? It was common knowledge that talisman masters consumed a lot of time and energy to draw talismans. Since she was a great talisman master, she would naturally draw offensive and defensive talismans. Could it be that he could draw 1 or 2 storage talismans a day and gather a few hundred storage talismans to store things? Even if this talisman master had a few hundred storage talismans on him, how big could the storage talisman be? How long would she be able to supply the bamboo materials for? He was simply trying to please the crowd with claptrap. He deliberately came to attract the attention of the crowd to satisfy his vanity. Stoic face mother, there's someone staring at us. Guangguang Darren suddenly shouted. Ignore him. She was going to the center of the eastern region to build the sacred region's first tower. Proper business was more important, so she didn't have time to bother with miscellaneous people. Chapter 5567. The female cultivator called Lady May saw that the people from Arbor were ignoring her, and she couldn't help but get angry. However, seeing that they had already left quickly, she knew that she would only be asking for trouble if she chased after them. Thus she could only turn around awkwardly. She wanted to see what these newly ascended people could do to the holy region. The holy region had been covered in white fog for hundreds and thousands of years. No one had ever said that they wanted to reform the holy region and build houses. Once these people arrived, they started causing trouble all day long. No one knew what they wanted to do. Master Dongfang seemed to be very respectful towards them. No one knew where these people came from. However, no matter where they came from, so what if you could break through the sky in the lower realm? Once you reached the holy region, you were like a blank piece of paper. Wouldn't you have to start all over again? Lady May. A gloomy and miserable voice made her stop in her tracks. Lady May turned around and saw an old woman with wrinkled skin and white hair. She couldn't help but smile. Aunt Zhao, have you come out of seclusion? Yes. The old woman walked forward slowly with her walking stick. She sized her up. Why haven't you improved your realm in 10 years? Don't mention it, Lady May said with disappointment. 10 years is like a day. I'm stuck at the mystique venerable realm. I can't even take a small step forward. Maybe my talent isn't good enough. The old woman sighed. All right, I saw that you looked gloomy just now. Did something happen? Lady May looked at the old woman in front of her, and her eyes lit up. She quickly walked forward and whispered something to the old woman. The old woman's eyes lit up. Oh, there's such a thing. Aunt Zhao. Lady May covered her mouth and laughed. She approached the old woman with a flirtatious expression. Among the group of people who recently ascended to the holy region, I saw a few good-looking boys. They're the most suitable for Aunt Zhao. The old woman's cloudy eyes lit up. She suddenly grabbed Lady May's hand. Where do you think they're staying? Lady May's lips curled up into a sinister smile. Refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit? Just now they dared to ignore me. I'll teach them a lesson tonight. Aunt Zhao was someone who was about to step into the hierarch realm. Aunt Zhao's methods were not something a mystique venerable rank junior like her could compare to. He had so many resources, yet he didn't know how to keep a low profile. Instead, he flaunted his wealth everywhere. That was courting death. Today, it was only Aunt Zhao who was looking for trouble with them. Tomorrow, it might even be Aunt Li or Aunt Zhang. Hehe. Auntie Zhao loved to torture those young and beautiful men the most. Oh right. If that arrogant stoic face dared to resist, who knew what cruel methods Auntie would use to punish her? When Lady May thought of this, she laughed happily. Not long after, a few inconspicuous little butterflies flew out from the crowd. He flapped his wings and happily returned to Arbor's side. Arbor stood to the side, watching stay up late, and the others quickly build the first sacred building. He stretches out his finger to let the little butterflies fall into his hand. After receiving the message they sent, his eyes are so cold that they almost fall into ice shards. How long has it been? It had been a long time since someone dared to face his anger. Ever since the 3 states and the 4 seas were peaceful, no idiot dared to find trouble with the Empress of the Divine Lands. Today they came. She wanted her to think about how she could repay them for their blindness. Chapter 5568. Oh right. Let her set up a Death 9 Palaces grid formation for them, so that they could properly experience Sir Jojo's gratitude before they died. Jojo. Emolien flashed to his wife's side and hugged her in high spirits. Should we hang up the plaque now? It was only when he looked down that he realized his wifey's displeasure was written all over her face. What's wrong? Which idiot dared to anger his wifey? Nothing. Arbor shook his head. Bring the little dumplings and the rest to the star domain to sleep tonight. Emolien blinked. What's wrong? I want to deal with 2 people. Emolien exclaimed softly, putting on a good show. We've only been here for a few days, and someone in the holy domain is already so blind as to target Jojo? They're targeting your face, Arbor said expressionlessly. Emolien instantly hugged his wifey and suppressed his shock. Jojo hubby is scared. Arbor. Why did it feel like this guy was getting more shameless with each passing year? Wifey, you have to protect hubby well. You can't let hubby be bullied. Arbor nodded. Roll inside with Duanyu and the rest tonight. Don't obstruct Jojo. Jojo is going to set up a Death 9 Palaces array. Anyone who steps into my array will die. Emolien twitched his mouth and revealed an expectant expression. Wifey, hubby can't stay by your side and watch. Arbor replied emotionlessly, no. Emolien heartless. His darling was too heartless. What are you talking about? The house is finished. Come and take a look. Yechen's figure flashed and floated in front of the 2. What's wrong? Jojo's expression is so serious. Jojo wants us all to return to the star domain tonight. Why? For the past few nights, because they had to put on an act, they had spent most of their nights in the bamboo house. Just as Emolien was about to speak, she saw stoic Jojo glancing at them resentfully. He heaved a long sigh and lamented endlessly. It's really so difficult to protect all of you. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched as they looked at each other in confusion. She took out dozens of thin, hand-sewn booklets from her sleeves. Yichun and Emolien both had a bad feeling, and the corners of their eyes twitched. Xiaomu shuffled around and handed out pamphlets to everyone present. She raised her voice and shouted, Copy. 50 times per person. Leave it to me tomorrow morning. Holy Sun Mi Yin lowered his head and looked at the booklet in confusion. For a moment, He didn't know which direction was which. What did he do wrong? How did he offend Stoic Qiao? Why did he want him to copy quotes the moment he arrived? Last time, when he saw a rotten peach blossom copying quotes, he even mocked her. Was it his turn today? Feng Chongqing and his brother, who were watching a good show and mocking Mo Lian, Duan Yu, and He Chun, were startled by the booklets Arbor handed out to them. They looked at him dumbfoundedly and asked in unison, We also have to copy? What did they do? Didn't they not do anything? They didn't violate the quotes. Arbor turned around and heaved a long sigh at the sky. You're all so worrisome. It was too difficult for her. She had to make them copy quotes from time to time to regain Jojo's spirit. Everyone. It was still our dear Duan Yu who meekly said, Jojo, I can memorize everything. If I memorize it, I won't copy anymore, right? Princess Wushuang couldn't hold it in and instantly burst into laughter. Chapter 55-69. Heavens, Songzhou's emperor's pitiful expression was exceptionally hilarious. Mo Lian quickly nodded when he heard this. Right, I copied more than Duan Yu. I can even recite it backwards by now. Qiao. Let's have Feng Zhongqing, Feng Zhongfei, Little Taisui, and Duan Muqing, who have never copied before, copy. Princess Wushuang laughed even more merrily. What do you mean recite backwards? Didn't eldest brother find himself comical when he said that? Little Taisui glared at Mo Lian, his face flushed red. He, the great Little Taisui, was actually being forced by this stoic little girl to copy some bullshit quotations? If news of this spread in the pugilistic world, he would definitely become a laughingstock. The two brothers, Feng Zhongqing and Feng Zhongfei, were also glaring at Mo Lian. Duan Yu and Venerable Peach Blossom Divinity nodded repeatedly, expressing their full support for Mo Lian. However, Jojo was very heartless and rejected Mo Lian's suggestion with a single no before turning around and leaving them with the back of his head. Hang up the plaque tomorrow. It's getting late, so you guys should go back early and pack up. Scram. Jojo would be left to guard the array's core alone and deal with those two disgusting people. Since it was an eyesore, then let Jojo be the eyesore alone. Everyone sullenly took a small booklet and copied it when they went back. Before leaving, they all resentfully sent Mo Lian a look that said, Figure it out yourself. Mo Lian was the one who was sullen. His wife was stirring up trouble. It was fine if she didn't bring him along for such a joyous occasion tonight. But she actually made him obediently stay in the star domain to copy quotations. Heartless Jojo. After returning to the bamboo house, stoic Jojo dismissed everyone who obediently left and started setting up the array. A time delay array was set up outside. A 9 palaces fancy death array was set up inside. After Arbor finished setting up everything, he clapped his hands and sat in the bamboo house's main hall, waiting for those two idiots to arrive. Unexpectedly, Aunt Zhao and Aunt May were not the only ones who came. Lady May was surprised but also not surprised. She looked at the few familiar cultivators and nodded with a smile. She cupped her hands and said, Since everyone has similar goals, why don't we go together? An old man with 3 cheekbones squinted his cold eyes and said, Oh, how are we going to distribute the resources we have obtained? Aunt Zhao leaned on her walking stick and raised her chin arrogantly. She coldly glanced at the old man who spoke. Chen Zhongming, don't put on airs in front of this old woman. When I ascended to the sacred region, you were still picking up potatoes to eat. The old man was provoked by her disdainful tone, and his eyes turned cold. However, the old woman's cultivation base was almost at the ultimate god realm. They were no match for her even if they worked together. But this time, if he couldn't get a share of the pie, how could he be satisfied? The inner worlds of these people must be very valuable. How about this? Those handsome young men will all belong to Granny. We only need 20% of the resources. What do you think? This Chen Zhongming seemed to be a tactful person. He was also very familiar with Aunt Zhao's preferences. Aunt Zhao heard this and didn't even move her eyebrows. She was as steady as a mountain. She sneered. Why should I bring you along for something that I can do alone? Chen Zhongming's anger accumulated. Aunt Zhao, if this matter gets out of hand, no one will be able to live with it, right? After all, Master Dongfang Yu had explicitly prohibited the act of stealing resources in private. The old woman sneered. She seemed to have considered Master Dongfang Yu's words. She nodded and said, "All right then. But when it's time to act, don't drag me down." Chapter 5570. Lady May laughed coldly in her heart. Stoic face, I'll let you show off. Today, I'll teach you how to behave. Before you're strong enough, don't show off your wealth. House. Haha, this is such a good bamboo house. Lady May will accept it. The group of people jumped into the bamboo garden casually. They weren't worried about making any noise and being discovered by Arbor. So what if they were discovered? With such a huge difference in strength, even if they were here to rob, the other party couldn't do anything about it. They could only obediently submit and hand over everything. Lady Zhao's eyes flashed with a hint of pride. After she led the group into the bamboo garden, she ordered casually, "Lady May, if anyone dares to disobey, kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Kill a few disobedient ones first." "You start first," the old woman said with a gloomy face. Did you hear me? What's wrong with Lady May? She followed behind and listened to me, but didn't say anything. How dare she? Lady Zhao turned her head and her pupils constricted. She saw an empty space behind her. Not far away, there was still the small bamboo garden door, but Lady May, Chen Zhongming, and the others had disappeared. In just a few breaths' time, she had been leading the group in front. How could Chen Zhongming, Lady May, and the others suddenly disappear? She quickly activated her defensive spirit artifact and looked around cautiously. Her old face was slightly distorted. "Who's there?" Lady Zhao shouted. However, the only response she got was the gentle wind that quietly blew by. The bamboo garden was completely silent. There was no one behind her. In front of her was a small 2-story bamboo house. It wasn't too far away. Aunt Zhao shuddered inexplicably and wiped off her cold sweat. She jumped forward with a whoosh and rushed in the direction of the row of bamboo buildings. However, she quickly realized that something was wrong. Logically speaking, with her current speed, she should be able to reach the small bamboo house in a few breaths' time. However, she felt that she had run a distance of 4 to 5 miles. The small bamboo house was still a small bamboo house. It stood quietly in front of her, but it was still a distance away from her. Lady Zhao knew that something was wrong. She was careless and fell into the enemy's trap. It looked like the other party was prepared and had set up some kind of subtle formation in the courtyard, causing her to be trapped in it. As for Lady May, Chen Zhongming and the others, they were definitely in the same situation as her. They were all trapped in the bamboo garden's array formation. What an arrogant girl. He actually dared to use a formation to assassinate them. Did he think that a small array would be able to trap her? Those from the lower realm were from the lower realm. They had no common sense at all. How could a broken formation trap a cultivator who was about to step into the hierarch realm? Aunt Zhao waved her sleeves, and a ball of saint power shot out in all directions. Hearing the buzzing sound of vibrations everywhere, Aunt Zhao smiled coldly and continued to fly forward. Balls of saint energy were constantly being released from his hands, and they were constantly being blasted in all directions. A quarter of an hour later she stopped, panting slightly. With an unsightly expression, she looked at the bamboo building, which was still some distance away. Why couldn't he use his saint energy to break through this damned formation? Aunt Zhao's eyes were filled with horror. What kind of broken formation was this? She didn't give up. This time, she retreated straight back. She planned to leave this damned bamboo garden first, and set a fire outside to burn down this bamboo garden first. Balls of saint energy were constantly being used up. Drops of sweat the size of soybeans appeared on Aunt Zhao's face. Chapter 5571. After another 15 minutes, Aunt Zhao stared at the small door of the bamboo garden that was so close yet so far away. Damn it! She couldn't retreat now. She seemed to be really trapped in this broken array. No, she couldn't be too nervous. Aunt Zhao took a deep breath and suddenly raised her arm. A long black staff suddenly appeared in her hand. She raised the staff and waved it in the air. Boom! A rebounding force caused her palms to feel slightly numb. Aunt Zhao took a few steps back in horror, and her face immediately turned pale. Bastard, do you dare to come out and fight? Aunt Zhao couldn't take it anymore and scolded. Under such circumstances, the only way to break this damned unknown formation was to get the person who set up the formation out and kill him in one strike. At the same time, Lady Mei, who was in a similar predicament, was in a much worse state than Aunt Zhao. Lady Mei's cultivation level was much lower than Aunt Zhao's. Because of the continuous use of her holy power, her holy power was almost depleted. She panted heavily, her eyes darting back and forth in fear as she cursed. Come out! Come out! Come out! Whoosh 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 whoosh. Hundreds and thousands of vines drilled out of the invisible air, piercing straight into her body. The thick vines made Lady Mei look like a clown. She jumped up and down and dodged left and right. Her face was filled with hatred and anger. Her lips were pale. Facial paralysis, I know it's you. I didn't expect you to be so cunning. You set up an array in the garden to trap us. You wretched villain. If you dare to cause my death here today, my master will not let you off. Lady Mei was shocked and panicked as she yelled out. My master is the silver envoy of the holy region. Do you dare to kill me? Do you know what the consequences are if you kill me? Boom! What responded to her was a huge, thick vine that ruthlessly slammed into her chest. Lady Mei was already at the end of her rope. After the last hit, her chest almost caved in. She spat out a mouthful of blood. She was flung backward and crashed heavily into the ground where the roots and vines intertwined. This time she was in great pain. His entire body was riddled with holes by the iron thorns on the vines, and his body was hanging on the two vines, unable to be pulled out for a while. Ah! Lady Mei was shocked and scared. Her eyes were red as she looked around and screamed. How dare you? Junior, how dare you? If you dare to kill me, my master will not let you go. Come out if you dare. Come out, you cowardly tortoise. You don't dare to see me? Ah! A vine that was as thick as an arm slammed into her face. The sharp pain in her cheeks woke her up, and she immediately screamed. Let me go, Madame M.O. Madame M.O., I beg you, please let me go. In the future, I won't dare to come to your bamboo house to make trouble. I won't dare to. You're a magnanimous person. Forgive me for thinking wrongly. I beg you, please let me go. I, Lady Mei, will definitely repay your kindness in my next life. A cold figure suddenly appeared in the air. Lady Mei raised her head and looked at her. She froze and couldn't control the anger in her eyes. It was this facial paralysis. Damn woman. She dared to set up an array to harm people. Let's see how I'll kill her. I'll make sure she dies a horrible death. Chapter 5572. Xiaomu gazed coldly at her ugly face that was contorted in pain, and indifferently spat out. So ugly. Lady Mei almost fainted from anger. She hated it when people called her ugly to her face. Although she wasn't beautiful, she was quite powerful. She had been in the holy region for so many years, and was respected by the silver messenger. Now this stoic man dared to humiliate her like this. The anger in Lady Mei's heart surged again, and her entire face was distorted. Yet Xiaomu merely glanced at her coldly before raising her hand. Green vines emerged from his fingertips and slithered towards Lady Mei like snakes. They pierced through Lady Mei's body. Ah! Lady Mei screamed tragically. Her eyes were filled with terror as she looked at Xiaomu, and she stuttered. She spat out large mouthfuls of blood. She could clearly feel her life force slowly flowing out of her body. Xiaomu expressionlessly retrieved the green vine that had burrowed out, and swept Lady Mei a mocking glance. Do you think you can still walk out of this door alive today? Dirty and smelly thing. I still have to wash your dirty and smelly blood later. Arbor was furious. He raised his hand, and dozens of green vines came out again, and pierced through Lady Mei's body. Lady Mei could clearly hear her bones cracking as the vines pierced through her body. Her body was like a piece of rotten cloth in the little stoic's hands. She was at the mercy of the little stoic man. Lady Mei hung on a vine that was as thick as a bowl, and was on the verge of death. Her eyes were filled with anger. Stoic face. One day, you will pay the price for this. Lady May's spiritual consciousness suddenly came out of her conscious and turned into a gust of wind, rushing out of the array formation. At this critical moment, the spiritual sense body actually slowed down in midair. In the blink of an eye, Xiaomu raised her hand, and countless streams of water enveloped that spiritual conscious avatar. Ah! Lady May screamed again. Her eyes almost popped out as she stared in Arbor's direction. She screamed in horror, "No, no! No! I admit defeat. I admit defeat. I admit defeat." Ah! A tearing pain rushed out from his consciousness. Lady May shook her head violently. To her horror, she realized that her conscious was disappearing bit by bit. Her inner world was also slowly disintegrating. The items in his inner world fell out with a crackling sound. Soon, about 10 cubic meters of things were piled up under the dense vegetation. "Is it fun?" Arbor asked coldly. "I have nothing to do with you. You actually want to bring people to harm JoJo's run, and the others just because of a little selfish desire and a little bit of jealousy. You heartless trash. What right do you have to cry and beg for mercy in front of me? Today, if JoJo wasn't strong enough to control everything, he would have died." The one who was squatting here, crying and screaming, was JoJo himself. Clearly, there was no enmity between them. In this world, there was too much hatred and hatred for no reason. Arbor glanced at Lady May coldly. The startled swan dagger slid out of his conscious and gave her a quick death. Lady May couldn't understand until she died. Didn't she come here with Aunt Zhao to get some benefits? How did she die on the spot? She widened her eyes in disbelief. Chapter 5573. There was a hole in her throat, and something was gurgling out. Arbor glanced at her coldly and raised his hand to touch the water droplet's head. "Wash this place clean." She didn't want the courtyard to be ruined by these smelly bugs. Okay. The water droplet jumped to the ground and stretched out two bright little fists, shaking left and right. With a loud bang, a thick stream of water drilled out from the ground. Aunt Zhao turned her head abruptly, and her sharp eyes swept across the empty space in front of her. No, this feeling was very wrong. It was as if someone was standing in front of her. This feeling of reality made her heart tremble, and she angrily shouted, "Die!" She raised her hand, gathered the grand half-saint power in her body, and blasted to one side. Poof! A dark figure fell out like a kite with a broken string, and rolled heavily on the ground. After rolling a few times, it lay face down on the ground. Aunt Zhao was delighted, and could not help but laugh to the sky. "Damn little bitch, how dare you trip me up? Don't you know who I am?" The blow just now had merged too much of her power, and no one could withstand such a blow from her peak celestial venerable. Whether it was a human or a ghost, they all had to submit to her. Dong! Aunt Zhao's walking stick hit the ground hard. She took a few steps forward, and used the walking stick to flip the body of the person lying on the ground. When the person's face was revealed, Aunt Zhao could not help but exclaim, "Chen Zhongming? How could it be Chen Zhongming? She killed Chen Zhongming?" Aunt Zhao's pupils suddenly shrank, and she turned her head to look vigilantly. She keenly felt that there seemed to be someone behind her left, but she could not see clearly with the naked eye. She would rather kill the wrong person than let one person go. Aunt Zhao once again used all her strength to throw out a palm, and struck out. At the same time, another figure flew up and rolled on the ground. Aunt Zhao panted heavily, and felt the saint power in her body flowing out very quickly. She suppressed the churning qi and blood in her chest, and stepped closer to the person who was sent flying by her for the second time. When the person turned over to look, he could no longer hold back the anger in his heart, and spat out a mouthful of blood. It was the cultivator who followed Chen Zhongming. Damn it! The owner of this house was teasing her like a cat playing with a mouse. Aunt Zhao's eyes were filled with anger, and she scolded coldly, "Shameless rascal! Do you only dare to peep from a dark corner like a mouse? Do you dare to come out in the open and fight this old woman?" Arbor's figure suddenly appeared in the air. His face was expressionless, and his eyes were cold. He looked at Aunt Zhao as if he was looking at a screaming corpse. "Since you're asking for a fight, I'll grant you your wish." Arbor looked at her coldly. Without saying a word, the startled swan dagger came out of his conscious and slashed towards Aunt Zhao's neck again. Aunt Zhao was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. She didn't expect the young woman in front of her to have the temperament of immediately attacking after saying 3 sentences. She hurriedly created partial divine armor around her neck, but to her surprise, the dagger didn't stab at her neck. Instead, it pierced through her left leg. Aunt Zhao covered the wound on her left leg and roared angrily. However, she couldn't stand steadily and took a few steps back. You! Aunt Zhao's expression changed. If it was before, she wouldn't be afraid of this girl, who had not even broken through the mystique venerable rank. Chapter 5574. But she could clearly feel the danger. Aunt Zhao had used up too much of her holy power in the previous attacks, and was now completely drained. It seemed that she was powerless to deal with this expressionless person in front of her. However, this old woman was never one to admit defeat so easily. Her snake-like gaze swept past Arbor. Stupid girl. Do you think you can trap me with this stupid array? Arbor would not waste her breath on her. She raised her hand and lashed out with a vine whip at her old face. It was a direct hit, and 2 of the old woman's teeth flew out. Aunt Zhao never thought that this girl would come up and slap her in the face. Her entire face turned green on the spot. How dare you? Aunt Zhao rebuked angrily, but she was met with another vine whip, which landed on the same spot with a smack. Aunt Zhao's expression changed abruptly, and she felt a salty and wet taste in her mouth. She opened her mouth and spat out half a tooth, along with a mouthful of blood, onto the ground. Aunt Zhao immediately pounced in Arbor's direction, as if she had gone mad, throwing out a few punches in a disorderly manner. Her fierce eyes were filled with murderous intent, and she shouted incoherently, "Come out!" Bang! In the blink of an eye, a giant golden brown dog jumped out from behind Aunt Zhao, and with a roar, rushed toward Arbor. Arbor raised her hand slightly, and the little white snake coiled around her wrist immediately scurried out. A giant snake shadow was cast in midair, and with a snap, it bit down. Aunt Zhao was dumbfounded. She never expected that such a young girl would have such a frightening giant snake by her side. As soon as the giant snake poked its head out, the heavy pressure suddenly enveloped her golden brown giant dog, directly pressing it to the ground. It hugged its head and whimpered. By lying down, it happened to avoid the little white snake's huge mouth. With a gotcha sound, he bit down and naturally missed. The giant snake circled in midair and turned around to hiss at the golden brown dog. The other party lay on the ground and did not dare to move at all. It did not even dare to raise its head. In just a single exchange, it had completely submitted. Aunt Zhao finally felt a little scared. Her old face was pale with fright. What was going on? Didn't Lady May say that these people were only from the lower realm? And they had only been here for a few days, and they hadn't even gained a foothold. Why was this little girl who didn't seem to have broken through to the transcendent realm so powerful? And she had a sacred beast snake with her. No wonder she was so fearless. It made sense. A sacred beast could deal with more than a dozen people who had just entered the immortal supremacy realm. Although she had reached the peak of the supremacy realm, she had yet to enter of the supremacy realm. In front of this sacred beast, she was already struggling to hold on with just her strength alone. Moreover, she was currently in a situation where she had lost most of her strength and cultivation. There was simply no way to resist. Arbor glanced at her coldly. Aunt Zhao clutched her chest and coughed loudly. She said incoherently, "Little friend, we don't have any great grudges. Today this old woman was too reckless. I trespassed into your courtyard. I can compensate you slightly. I just hope that you can let me live on account of how difficult it is to cultivate." Arbor didn't like people like this the most. He was a god, and he was also a ghost. He said one thing in front of others, and another behind their backs. Chapter 5575. This kind of person usually only knew how to put on airs, and put on the airs of an upper realm cultivator. Once they lost a fight, they would immediately beg others to let them go. Did they have any backbone at all? If they knew that they would lose, Wouldn't it be better if they had a better attitude before? Arbor waved her hand and let the white snake deal with the woman, who was at the end of her rope. She assisted from the side, using the time delay formation to make the woman reveal a flaw. The white snakelet's tail instantly coiled around Auntie Zhao's body, directly dragging her back to Qiao Mu. Arbor looked at the person coldly. Her fingertips drew in the air and gently pushed. A life-taking talisman formed in the air, carrying thousands of yin energy, entered between Aunt Zhao's eyebrows. Aunt Zhao felt chills all over her body. A bone-piercing chill came from the depths of her bones. She rolled back and forth on the ground uncontrollably, wailing and begging for mercy. Arbor just watched coldly from the side. After these people lost the fight, they kept asking the others to be merciful and let them go. But did they even think about it? If she did not master Arbor's skills today, her ending might be 1,000 times more tragic than theirs. At that time, it would be her, Qiao Mu, who would be rolling around on the ground in a wretched state, wailing and pounding her heart out. Arbor turned around coldly and ordered the water baby to clean up the ground. After returning to the galaxy, Emolien, who had finished copying the little emperor's words, came up and hugged the cold little wood into her arms. "Jojo, you're cold all over. Let me warm you up." Arbor did not push him away. Instead, she reached out and hugged his narrow waist. They cried and begged for mercy, but I turned a blind eye. I'm not a bad person. How could that be? Emolien quickly hugged her waist and looked at her with her head tilted. Jojo knows the answer in his heart. If we don't fight back as soon as possible and kill them in one blow, we'll be the ones who will suffer. We're the unlucky ones. Jojo nodded, but there was a hint of displeasure on his face. It's been a long time since I've encountered something like this. They had only been in the sanctuary for a few days, yet someone had already set their sights on them, and even wanted to snatch Jojo's lotus. These people really deserved to die, Arbor said coldly. Tomorrow, we'll show everyone in the sanctuary a good show. On the second day, the double row of bamboo buildings became the focus of the entire sacred region. Several earth spikes were erected in front of the bamboo building. There was a person hanging from each spike. Some were completely unrecognizable, some were riddled with holes, and some had even turned into a pile of mush. Many Xiozha were watching from afar in horror. Many people exchanged information with each other, trying to find out what was going on. This family is really generous. Killing the chicken to warn the monkey? A middle-aged practitioner around 40 years old smiled coldly. You're so arrogant when you've just arrived at the sanctuary. I can't stand it. Hey, that's Aunt Zhao. I heard that Aunt Zhao's cultivation base has reached the peak of the immortal sovereign realm. She's only one step away from breaking through. My God, why does Aunt Zhao look so miserable? There's not a single piece of unharmed flesh on her body. Who killed her? This family is too cruel. I see that they're all young, and they even have children. How can they be so unreasonable and cruel? This family is not to be trifled with. Who knows? Chapter 5576. They have just arrived, yet they are already so high profile, they will offend many people. A few practitioners disappeared into the crowd with gloomy expressions. Another day passed, and there were a few more spikes at the entrance of the bamboo building, and a few more corpses. In order not to affect everyone's appetite, Arbor's group went in and out of the bamboo building through the back door. The first tower of the sacred galaxy also opened smoothly. The price was clearly marked, and the amount of materials could be exchanged for food, bamboo, and talismans. Thinking about it, her little cauldron would be in luck for a period of time. On the first day of business, the first tower of the sacred galaxy was very popular. The dean of the sacred academy was very supportive, and bought a few bamboo talismans in one go. He organized a group of people, and went back to build the junior branch and the youth branch. The others were originally in a wait-and-see mode, but after seeing that the junior branch was built smoothly, no one could sit still anymore. The practitioners who had some assets rushed to the first tower of the sacred galaxy to buy bamboo, planning to build a house for themselves and end their primitive lifestyle, so that they could live happily for the rest of their lives. But when they went to the first tower of the sacred galaxy, they realized that the other party was already closed. Want to buy bamboo? Come early tomorrow. Every day, the first tower of the sacred galaxy would only be open for 2 hours, starting in the morning and closing at the end of the day. Those who wanted to buy all kinds of things had to bring their own materials. Those who did not buy anything after 1 minute would be asked to leave. Who had the time to waste with others, so they naturally closed and went home after finishing their business. When the people of the sacred galaxy heard the news, they scolded the first tower of the sacred galaxy for being unkind. Would Arbor care? She couldn't be bothered. Anyway, she was only willing to let people open for 2 hours a day at the first tower of the sacred galaxy. After 2 hours, it was purely a waste of time. Everyone was not idle, and making the best use of their time to cultivate was the way of the king. After the new rules were announced, the business of the first tower of the sacred galaxy became even more popular, and everyone was on time to buy things. Thus, a strange scene appeared in front of the first tower of the sacred galaxy. At first, there were people who came 2 hours early, but they found that there was a long queue at the door, and it was not their turn. Some smart people counted the time, and everyone's transaction took at least a minute. Every day, they could only operate for about 60 to 70 people, and this was already a very tight schedule. If any crazy person were to cause a ruckus in the first tower of the holy region, all the time wasted would be on the buyers. The people in charge of the first sacred tower wouldn't care if you had enough time. In any case, it was time for him to pack up and leave. No one could stop him. Thus, some people started lining up in the middle of the night. Gradually, in order to get to the top 60, some people started lining up yesterday. At all costs, the number of people sleeping on the floor in front of the first tower of sanctuary gradually increased. Master Dongfang had gone to patrol the area, but there was nothing he could do. Due to the scarcity of resources, the first floor of the holy region's sales were booming. As for the 2-story bamboo building in Arbor, new corpses were hung on the thorns in front of the door every day. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days later after that, there were no more new corpses. Everyone finally understood one thing. No matter how many people came, those who dared to barge into the house were simply courting death. Chapter 55-77. This group of young people might not have ascended from the lower realms for many days, but their methods, their boldness, were not something anyone could compare to. All those who tried to break into their homes and plunder the resources in their hands would die in strange ways. Someone found that the corpses hanging at the door of this family all died in different ways, but they all died in horrible ways. The 9 Palaces death formation was not a joke. It really had countless ways to die for the intruders to enjoy. Starting from the 5th day, no one dared to foolishly barge into the little bamboo house anymore. In the minds of many people in the sacred realm, this 2-story little bamboo house almost became synonymous with the devil. I've been in line from yesterday to today. I've clearly been in line for almost 20 hours. How can you be like this? You came to steal my spot without another word. Hurry up and leave. That's right, big sister. You're too rude. This spot is the girls' leave. The Xiozha behind them laughed as they chased them away. Their eyes, however, were fixed on the graceful woman standing in front of them. The woman who was called Big Sister had a simple and honest appearance. She was about 50 years old. Hearing this, she was so angry that she almost trembled. She pointed at the Xiozha, who kept telling her to give up her seat, and then pointed with a trembling finger at the graceful woman. You don't go too far. I've been in line from yesterday to today. You've all been in line behind me. How can you not know who this spot belongs to? A big sister, don't lie. I've clearly been standing here in line, don't you think so? The woman threw a flirtatious look at the 3 vulgar men behind her. The result was that the 3 immediately became smug, nodding and smiling as they said, Yes, we can testify that this spot is Mrs. What are you arguing about? Mei Yi, who was responsible for maintaining order, floated out and said impatiently, We're about to open for business, and you're still arguing. Little brother, uphold justice for me. Big sister shouted angrily. These people are colluding to help this woman take my spot. Mei Yi glanced at them, unable to suppress a threat of impatience in his eyes. They would come a few minutes earlier to open the shop before 7 o'clock. But almost every day, there would be people arguing and fighting over a spot. Today's incident was nothing. Yesterday's incident was even more outrageous. A few burly men fought over a seat and beat someone until his head bled. Of course, these people who snatched the seats would not have a good ending in the end. They would forever be blacklisted by the first pavilion of the Holy Region, and they would never be able to buy anything from the first pavilion in their next life. Mei Yi didn't waste his breath on them. He took out the time reversal stone and the image rune array to check what had just happened. Then, he looked coldly at the coquettish woman. Miss, I advise you to leave this place immediately. I'm warning you. Since you dared to disrupt the order of the first tower of the Sacred Saint region, you will be blacklisted in our tower. The smile on the beautiful woman's face froze. Big sister heaved a sigh of relief and patted her chest. She quickly praised. Everyone says that the first tower of the sanctuary is orderly. It seems like it's true. She had been queuing since yesterday afternoon, and had been queuing until now. If they still couldn't buy some rice, then it would be too frustrating. Chapter 5578. The beauty was clearly indignant as she glared at Mei Yi and the rest. Since you're doing business, why do you need others to line up? Shouldn't everyone have a share? Oh, I get it. It's because you're running out of resources. Who knows if there'll be a tomorrow if you sell it all out today. So you're doing this on purpose to whet the appetites of the people in the Holy Region, right? Mei Yi wasn't angry at all at her provocation. He nodded with a smile. Yes, yes. You're the smartest. You can even see through this. Then can you get lost now? The beauty was so angry that she almost choked. Obviously, with her beautiful appearance, she had never suffered such a loss before. She stomped her feet in exasperation and pointed at Mei Yi. You don't regret it. At this moment, the Holy Region's first floor was already open for business. Many people were moving forward with the flow of the crowd. This woman was blocking the path of many people behind her. Some people were already yelling impatiently. Let's go. What are you still talking about? You didn't come to line up, and now you want to take a spot. What are you thinking? That's right. Hurry up and get lost. Don't block other people's path and hinder them from buying things. The beauty was furious, but she couldn't say much. In the end, she could only stomp the ground and leave reluctantly. After she left the crowd, her arrogant and domineering expression faded slightly. She turned and ran into the white fog for a few minutes. A brawny man with a missing left arm was waiting for her. When he saw this woman, he grinned. Launer, how is it? Are there a lot of things in that floor? We'll talk when we get back. She pulled the one-armed brawny man and left with him. The Holy Region was surrounded by white fog. Everyone relied on the road signs that appeared every 3 miles to find their way. They quickly returned to their place. A kind-looking old man with white hair had been waiting here for a long time. When he saw Li Lan, he smiled and nodded. How did it go? I couldn't get in. That place is very strict. You can't enter without queuing. Li Lan cupped her hands and said, Supremacy, but I believe there should be a lot of things. There are more than 100 people queuing at the entrance. They've been operating for a few days now. They've let in more than 100 people every time and sold so many things. Clearly, these people have more resources in their hands. Yes, the one-armed man chimed in and turned to look at the silent man. The dog knows how to scheme. He knows how to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. He knows how to prioritize. Why don't you tell me? Zhao Guzi raised his pair of gloomy eyes, squatted on the ground and took a deep breath. Didn't you notice that there has been no movement from the bamboo house where they live for several days? Everyone was silent for a moment. According to my secret research, this family should have set up a very powerful talisman array in the court. The one-armed man suddenly understood. So that's how it is. No wonder they entered but never came out. It turns out that these young people who have just ascended to the sanctuary are so vicious. Just by looking at them, I really can't tell. What do you know? Zhao Guzi smiled viciously. The brighter a person's appearance is, the darker their heart is. The white-haired venerable mulberry frowned. Then what should we do? Are we just going to let it go? Chapter 55-79. Retreating in the face of difficulties might also be a way to save one's life. But knowing that there was a big piece of fat meat in front of them, that was almost at their fingertips, there was no reason not to snatch it. Zhao Guzi smiled. It's impossible to give up. Since we can't beat them in the open, we can take a roundabout battle line. What roundabout battle line? The few of them were slightly agitated when they heard this. They thought to themselves that Zhao Guzi was indeed not bad. He had brains. Whenever they encountered something that required brains, they could definitely throw it to Zhao Guzi to solve. Zhao Guzi rubbed his index finger and thumb and smiled sinisterly. Do you still remember that there are 3 children in that family? 2 of them go to Holy Academy to study every day. The few of them hit it off on the spot and decided to find an opportunity tomorrow to kidnap the 2 brats. However, Lilana was a little worried. These people's methods are quite vicious. Don't tell me there's no one around to protect the 2 children when they go to and from school? Moreover, it was said that there were more than 30 people in this group. It was impossible for everyone to continue cultivating at home. Someone had to pick up the children. Zhao Guzi rubbed his fingers and smiled secretly. Of course we can't snatch it in the open. So we need your cooperation. As he spoke, he waved at the few people beside him. Supremacy Mulberry, Lilan and the one-armed centaur stretched their heads over. The 4 of them whispered for a while before nodding repeatedly. The next day, Baby Mo and Lord Guangguang went to Holy Academy's boy branch to study as usual. Now that there was a new school, the group of children lived very comfortably. They listened to the class more seriously than usual. Of course, Baby Mo was an exception. Baby Mo listened to the class nonchalantly and did not affect the classroom environment. When it was time for school to end, he pulled Lord Guangguang along and walked out together with a group of little radishes surrounding the moon like stars surrounding the moon. Mo Xiao, you said that you would roast sweet potatoes for us after school today. Does that still count? A few half-grown children stared at Baby Mo with expectant looks. Lord Guangguang put his hands on his hips and snorted. Of course it's true. When has my little dumpling ever gone back on his word? The little girl who spoke said embarrassedly. But I heard from my mother that your family has opened a food ingredient restaurant. What he meant was, now that your family is doing business, isn't it a little unkind of us to come and freeload? Lord Guangguang waved his small hand. You guys should eat more. We can still afford it. The children cheered and swarmed around little Mo Xiao, walking out of the school. Baby Mo became the king of the children and was in the limelight for a while. Ma Weixian, who was standing far away outside the school, turned his head and looked at Lilan behind him. He lowered his voice and asked, "What should we do now? Are we still going according to plan?" She didn't expect that this family's child would have such good luck with other children. She was actually pushed out by a large group of people. With such a noisy group of children, how was he going to deal with them properly? Lilan was a little calmer than Ma Wei. Why are you panicking? Let's wait and see. If we keep looking, they'll be gone. Ma Weixian couldn't help but feel anxious. Seeing this, Lilan gritted her teeth. Do it. Let's get rid of those little bastards first. Chapter 55-80. Then, the 2 of them ran out one after another. Lilan ran in front and pretended to cry. Ma Weixian followed behind her and chased after her fiercely. Help! Help! As soon as Lilan's words left her mouth, she heard a childish voice yelling, "Spread out!" The group of children instantly dispersed from Baby Mo's side with a whoosh. Be careful of the scammers! Lord Guangguang yelled in a sharp tone. Then, he grabbed Baby Mo's little arm and retreated a few steps. Lilan froze for a moment. Then, she exchanged glances with the other kids who had scattered away. What kind of trick was this? Was there still any innocence left? Lord Guangguang took out a black stick from his inner world and waved it in Li Lan'er's direction. What are you trying to do? Li Lan'er was speechless. Ma Weixian, who had chased after them, was also dumbfounded. He suddenly felt that he could not continue acting. Li Lan'er, on the other hand, was more experienced. She fell to the ground in tears and yelled, "You bastard! How could you hit your own wife? I don't want to live anymore. I can't live anymore." Mo Baobao's expression became even more vigilant. He pulled Lord Guangguang back a few steps and said to the group of kids, "Fellow students, we are still young and can't interfere in the matters between adults. Let's all go home first. We'll have a meal together tomorrow." The children were scared by Li Lan'er and Ma Weixian and lost their interest in roasting sweet potatoes. Hearing Baby Mo's words, they quickly nodded and left after bidding him farewell. Guangguang. Yes. Master Guangguang took out a spiritual energy ball from his pocket and threw it at Li Lan'er without hesitation. Li Lan'er was speechless. Ma Weixian was speechless. What kind of trick was this? They hadn't even done anything yet. Why did these two little brats attack first? The two of them held each other's hands and strode forward on their four short legs. Thump, 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 thump. Li Lan'er flicked her sleeve and swept all the spiritual power balls outside the barrier. Then her face turned gloomy. Zhao Guzi, who was hiding in the dark, frowned. He did not expect these two little brats to be so difficult to deal with. He gave a meaningful glance to the amiable-looking venerable mulberry tree beside him. He nodded and pretended to walk out of the white fog. When he saw the two children rushing over, he was slightly stunned. Then he smiled and stopped the two of them. With an amiable expression, he asked with a grin, "Children, why are you running so frantically?" "Grandpa, there are two weirdo uncles and aunties chasing after us." Baby Mo answered seriously, "I suspect that they are pawns who specialize in tricking children." This time, even Zhao Guzi, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Who would have thought that these two brats would be so alert? Li Lan'er and Zhao Guzi's scene hadn't even started yet, and the two kids had already seen through it. What was going on? Even someone as smart as Zhao Guzi couldn't understand. He had no choice but to speed up the process and throw the old man out to fool the two brats. The old man's amiable-looking face was very deceptive. The two children were inexperienced and didn't understand that the kinder a person looked, the more vicious his heart was. When the old man chopped off someone's thigh bone, he would not be merciful at all. As expected, the two brats let down their guard when they saw the old man. Chapter 5581. Is that so? There's actually a peddler in the holy region. Could it be a misunderstanding? Supremacy Mulberry smiled kindly. Children, where do you live? Grandpa will send you home. Sure. Baby Mo clapped his hands innocently. Grandpa, we live in the Bamboo Garden. The Bamboo Garden was a well-known name in the holy region. The nearby road was now called the Bamboo Garden, and the most iconic building was Jojo's two-story bamboo house. The old man nodded kindly. Oh, so you're children of the Bamboo Garden. Children, don't be afraid. Grandpa will send you home. Baby Mo nodded cutely and tugged at Master Guangguang. Don't be afraid. Grandpa will send us home. Master Guangguang nodded. Don't be afraid. Master Guangguang isn't afraid. Supremacy Mulberry heaved a sigh of relief as the huge rock in his heart was finally lifted. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw how the two brats dealt with Ma Weixian and Li Lan'er. He thought that they would be very difficult to deal with. But now it seemed that they were just slightly smarter than the average child. Supremacy Mulberry chuckled as he reached out to hold Baby Mo's hand. Baby Mo raised his head adorably and extended his little hand to old Master Mo. The instant Supremacy Mulberry held his hand, he felt as though the child had stuffed something into his palm. Round, round, round. Alarm bells rang in his mind as he lowered his head to take a look. It was a round, pitch-black, golden ball of holy power. Baby Mo giggled and pulled Master Guangguang to run outside. As he ran, he waved defensive talismans and called out in his childish voice, "Explode!" Boom! A huge explosion shook the entire holy region. Supremacy Mulberry was miserably sent flying by a strong gust of wind and fell heavily to the ground. When he fell to the ground, his mind was still in a daze. A sentence kept replaying in his mind. He was beaten up by a child. He was beaten up by a 5 or 6-year-old brat. Supremacy Mulberry tried his best to sit up, but just as he sat up, he spat out a mouthful of blood. The unlucky Venerable Mulberry fell backwards and crashed heavily onto the ground. Zhao Guzi, who was also affected by the shockwaves, was closer to Sage Mulberry. Naturally, he was also affected by the shockwaves of the Holy Power Ball. His entire body was sent flying more than 10 meters away. He raised his head in astonishment and saw 2 children walking up to him, hand in hand. Unknowingly, one of the little baldies had a big golden hammer in his hand. He couldn't help but bring the hammer down, smashing it heavily on his head. Zhao Guzi immediately fainted like a dead dog. Li Lan'er and Ma Weixian were both startled. They looked at the child as if they were looking at a ghost. At this moment, the two of them had an unusual tacit understanding. They turned around and quickly retreated into the white fog. However, at that moment Lord Guangguang shouted, "Little Wonton, come out!" After a furious roar, Li Lan'er and Ma Weixian fainted before they could see anything clearly. A huge crimson claw suddenly slammed on the ground, dispersing the thick fog in front of them. Baby Mo's phoenix eyes shone brightly as he walked forward with his hands behind his back with a smile on his face. He walked around the 4 injured, unconscious, and battered adults. Chapter 5582. Among the 4 of them, only Supremacy Mulberry was still conscious. However, at this moment he really wished that he could be like the other 3 idiotic teammates and just faint together. Little Wonton. Baby Emma waved his hand. The 6-legged, 4-winged, fiery beast shrunk to the size of a dog and pounced into the child's hand. Supremacy Mulberry felt that he should die first. This child actually had a holy power ball in his hand. Not only that, the shrunken beast also looked extraordinary. Could it be a divine beast? He didn't dare to think further. Zhao Guzi was really courting death. It was fine if he wanted to die, but he just had to drag them down with him. Now not only did he fail to kidnap them, he was also knocked out by this child. Supremacy Mulberry didn't know how to ease the current situation. He lay on the ground, his entire body aching. He had been sent flying by the holy power ball at close range, and the impact had been great. He knew that his injuries were very serious, and he urgently needed to find a quiet place to treat them. But that kid who was holding the golden hammer, what was he trying to do? Grandpa, do you think we're all idiots? Your acting was so fake and obvious. You suddenly appeared in front of us and said that you wanted to send us home. Even a 3-year-old child wouldn't fall for your trick. Venerable Mulberry gritted his teeth and thought to himself, only you 2 devilish children didn't fall for his trick. His benevolent face is actually very deceptive, and he has deceived many people before. When you saw us, your eyes kept darting around as if you were a thief. Who would believe you? Lord Guangguang snorted. You don't even know how to do something bad. And here I thought you had some clever trick up your sleeve. Turns out you just wanted to kidnap us in exchange for resources. So stupid. Isn't that right? The stupidest ones are the one-armed man and that old auntie. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell that you 2 aren't husband and wife. Why are you still pretending to be an old couple? So stupid. You don't even know how to act properly and be a little more professional. You were seen through with a single glance. What a joke. Venerable Mulberry felt his throat turn dry, and he couldn't say a single word as the 2 little brats in front of him echoed each other's words. He spat out a mouthful of blood and closed his eyes, pretending to pass out. Baby Emma looked at him expressionlessly and suddenly turned to give Sir Guangguang a look. Lord Guangguang nodded and swung his hammer down fiercely, directly hammering the old man. The old man let out a strange cry of pain and sat up straight. Out of reflex, his movements were very strange and funny. He straightened his 2 hands and sat up straight. There was even a hint of pain on his face. Emo Baobao blinked and said, Grandpa, your acting skills are so lame. A normal person's breathing rate after fainting is completely different from when they are awake. You pretended to faint in order to avoid responsibility. Do you think you can just pretend to faint? Sovereign Mulberry's complexion paled. He felt as if something bad was about to happen. He hurriedly begged for mercy. Little master, please spare me. This little ancestor. We didn't know that such a noble person had arrived and offended you. Please let us off on the account that this is our first offense. They had intended to kidnap him, but they didn't succeed at all. They didn't even touch a single hair on his body, and the mission was declared a failure. Chapter 5583. Supremacy Mulberry thought that a child would be a child after all, and would definitely be soft-hearted. As long as he tried to curry favor and say a few nice words, the other party would definitely let him go. However, he didn't expect that baby Emma wasn't a child who followed the routine. The two dragged them to the front of the first tower of the holy region and tied them up with a few earth spikes. Can you tie them up? If not, let's reinforce a wooden cage for them. The two children discussed as they worked. After tying up Ma Weixian and the other three, they set up several wooden cages and added binding talisman arrays to trap them. It shouldn't be a problem to trap them until tomorrow, right? Definitely not a problem. Lord Guangguang patted his chest and giggled. Little dumpling, what do you want to do now? Baby Mo blinked. Call mommy over. Why are you calling stoic face mother? Are you stupid? Call mommy over to rob us. Baby Mo expressionlessly said. Think about it. These people actually thought of kidnapping us to threaten mommy. Then we must give them something in return. Right. I heard stoic face mother say that it's impolite not to reciprocate. Mo Bao grinned. Holding Lord Guangguang's hand, he swaggered back home. Reverend Mulberry felt tears welling up in his eyes as he shouted from behind. Child, come back, child. Let's talk things over. What's there to talk about? Baby Mo turned his little head and shouted at them from a distance. Child, don't you just want something? I'll give you everything. Supremacy Mulberry hastily called out to them with an expression of a wise man submitting to circumstances. Let me go first, and I can give you everything in my inner world. Baby Mo pulled Lord Guangguang back, and expressionlessly looked at him through several layers of binding talisman arrays. Then he shook his head. You're coaxing me. Supremacy Mulberry. He really wanted to slap these two brats to death, especially the one who just spoke. They were especially hateful. They wouldn't listen to soft words, and wouldn't listen to harsh words. They were truly stinky brats who couldn't be persuaded by force or persuasion. This old man is already so old. How could I trick you two dolls? Hee. Baby Mo laughed coldly. Lord Guangguang was used to imitating his little master's way of doing things. Hearing this, he also let out a cold laugh. Then take out the valuables from your inner world first, Baby Mo said. Supremacy Mulberry was speechless. But what if I take it out first, and you two don't let me go? Then you can only endure it, Baby Mo said firmly. Supremacy Mulberry thought. Why does this sound a little unreliable? There is only one chance in front of you. Try it or not, it's up to you. Venerable Mulberry Tree endured the pain, and took out a great eastern pearl from his inner world, and threw it out with a wave of his hand. The instant the item passed through the barrier, Supremacy Mulberry also tried to break out of the encirclement. Unfortunately, he slammed into the barrier, and was completely useless. Baby Mo's little stoic face was cold as he held the eastern pearl in his hand and harumphed. You want to bribe this baby with this lousy thing? What kind of dream are you having? Guangguang. I know. Little dumpling, let's go and ignore this stinky old grandpa. Even a lousy pearl is worth showing off. There's definitely nothing good in his inner world. Forget it. Let's inform the stoic woman to come collect the goods. Chapter 5584. Come back. Supremacy Mulberry was about to explode from anger. He tried to negotiate with the two children. How about this? This old man will give you another treasure. After you take it, you must let me out, all right? Baby Mo remained expressionless. The old man's hands trembled as he took out a piece of purple stream gold from his inner world. He stammered. This old man obtained this piece of purple stream gold by chance, when he was mining in the sacred region. It's a saint-grade material. The little fellow's eyes lit up. Supremacy Mulberry hurriedly let out a sigh of relief. These days, children were actually so hard to deceive. It was only when he took out such a precious item that the child's eyes lit up a little. It seemed that there was hope for this matter. He just needed to put in a little more effort. Child, this old man will gift you this piece of purple stream gold. The old man's face was filled with pain. He clearly knew that purple stream gold was a good item. You have to let this old man go, okay? Baby Emo nodded his little head, looking like an obedient little boy. The old man was overjoyed. He raised his hand and tossed the purple stream gold over. Baby Emo reached out and caught it. He turned it over and over in his hands as he examined it. His eyes sparkled as he turned to look at Lord Guangguang. When the old man saw his happy expression, he once again let out a sigh of relief. He used a coaxing tone and squeezed out a benevolent smile. Child, this old man didn't lie to you, right? This is really a good item. Don't worry. If you let me go, this old man will leave the eastern region and never come back to cause trouble for you. Baby Mo's little face was taut as he nodded his head repeatedly, looking very obedient. The old man's heart stirred. He looked at the child expectantly. Baby Emo turned his little head and pulled Lord Guangguang away with his short little legs. Supremacy Mulberry was dumbfounded. He immediately called out, Child, hey child. These two fucked up babies, were they actually like this? They took the item and left without looking back. They turned a deaf ear to his cries. Even now, Supremacy Mulberry was still doubtful. Had he been deceived by 2 5 or 6-year-old children? Uffed. A chuckle came from the side. Venerable Mulberry angrily turned his head and saw that Zhao Guzi and the others had already woken up. It seemed that they had clearly heard and seen everything that had happened between him and the child. The one-armed centaur said angrily, Mulberry, you are too disloyal. Do you want to abandon us and slip away on your own? They had clearly heard the conversation between Venerable Mulberry and the child. They knew that Mulberry wanted to abandon all of them and escape by herself. Senior Mulberry's face immediately sank. What can I do? Zhao Guzi said that he would definitely succeed in kidnapping the 2 children. What was the result? After expending so much effort, we're the ones who are tied up. If this were to spread, it would be a huge joke. Cut the crap. Ma Weixian roared. You were the one who betrayed us just now. You abandoned your brother and ran away. Don't talk nonsense. This matter was caused by Zhao Guzi. It has nothing to do with us, Supremacy Mulberry said angrily. Zhao Guzi smiled sinisterly. Oh, is that so? When I said that I wanted to kidnap the 2 children, didn't you also clap your hands and cheer, saying that this plan would definitely succeed? Chapter 5585. Supremacy Mulberry's face burned. He knew that he would be looked down upon for going back on his word. But what could he have done just now? At that critical moment, he could only think of saving himself first. Was it so ridiculous to have such a thought? If it were the 3 of them, would they foolishly talk about the righteousness of the pugilistic world and not take advantage of such a good opportunity to leave? What brotherly love! They made it sound so extravagant, but it couldn't hide the fact that each of them would flee in the face of disaster. Guzi Zhao is thinking of us brothers, Ma Weixian said angrily. Enough, what's there to argue about? Li Lan'er was furious. We're all tied up here anyway, so we can't leave anytime soon. What's the point of arguing? The few of them fell silent, their faces revealing bitter expressions. They really poked a hornet's nest this time. They didn't expect that their group of 4 adults would have such a miserable ending when they tried to catch 2 5 or 6-year-old brats. Not only did they fail to catch the culprits, but they also lost their entire group here. However, Li Lan'er thought further than them. She couldn't help but shudder violently when she recalled the adults' ruthless methods. Here's the author. Arbor was currently tilting his head and carefully listening to Aoye's marvelous report. He listened with great interest. His son was really promising. He was knowledgeable, intelligent, and very attentive, just like Sir Jojo. Emolien was used to reading his wife's expression. Seeing this, he quickly teased with a smile. Our son is really like my wife. He's smart and quick-witted, very intelligent. Seeing this, he immediately became vigilant. My heavens, this really is my wife's son. He's carved from the same mold as my wife. Sitting on the side, Ma Yichen tilted the teacup in her hand. Duan Yu also choked, but he didn't say anything. They had long gotten used to Emolien, this guy's shamelessness. Sir Jojo nodded in satisfaction. Ao Yi quickly lowered his head and coughed to cover his smile. She expressionlessly said, So my son will be back soon? Yes, master. Stay up late coughed again. She then heard baby Mo's childish voice from outside the courtyard. Mother, I'm back. Jojo responded. She saw her son cross the threshold and run all the way in. He jumped into her arms and rubbed against her softly. Mother, Xiao Tuanzi has gained a lot today. Is that so? Jojo pretended that he hadn't heard Stay Up Late's report and put on a surprised expression. Everyone looked at Jojo, who was possessed by a drama queen, and helplessly lowered their heads to drink their tea. As they continued to enjoy the show, baby Mo nodded repeatedly, beckoning to Lord Guangguang behind him. Go on, go on. Lord Guangguang hurriedly reported everything that had happened along the way, no matter how big or small. Then he said, Stoic face, mother. We've tied up those 4 bad guys at the entrance of the first tower of the sanctuary. If you have time tomorrow, you can go and receive it. Everyone was well aware of what they were going to accept. They were going to accept compensation. Arbor nodded, and wasn't stingy with his praise. You all did very well today. You used especially gentle methods to resolve a matter. You even told Mother about it, and let Mother resolve it in the end. Very good. Everyone. Baby Mo threw a sacred energy ball and even summoned the sacred beast, Hun Dun. Gentle? Why didn't it feel gentle? Chapter 5586. Baby Mo's eyes brightened, and he hugged his mother and rubbed against her joyfully. Isn't little Furball very smart? That old grandpa thought he was flawless. In reality, he was full of flaws from head to toe. The moment he appeared in front of little Furball, I knew he was definitely a big scoundrel. Sir Guangguang also nodded. MHM. A scoundrel? Did he think we would listen to him, just because he looks benevolent and amiable? Stop dreaming. Arbor nodded in admiration. You two are very good. You must continue to maintain such vigilance in the future. Strangers with ulterior motives should approach you. Arbor clenched his small fists. Just beat them up. Everyone. Duan Yu and Hechen even turned to look at Emolien. The latter was baffled and glared back at the two of them. Arbor scooped up his son and pattered outside. Mother, we'll just tie them up at the entrance of the first floor of the holy domain. We originally planned to leave them out for a night to make them suffer a bit. Is Mother going to receive them now? On second thought, Arbor felt that his son was still the most considerate. Just leave them out for a night. It was also not bad to let them be on tenterhooks and panic for a night. Son, what you say is very reasonable. Mom will listen to you. Xiaomu hugged her son and retreated, patting her son's small head. Baby Mo kissed his mother's cheek with a smack, eliciting an angry glare from his father. Little Furball pretended not to see his father's angry glare, and turned his head away. Mother, let's go eat. Arbor nodded and carried his son downstairs. Son, you performed very well today. What do you want to eat? As long as it's from Mother, this child likes to eat anything. Hu Jinshin gave Emolien a meaningful look, which directly made the latter's hair stand on end. What are you looking at? Little Furball is so young, but he already knows how to coax his mother. He's just like you. Right. Duan Yu immediately nodded. Back then, he also coaxed Jojo away like this. Just looking at him makes me angry. Let's go. Everyone went out one after another, leaving Emolien behind. Emolien, come back and explain clearly. What do you mean by coaxing? Which eye of yours saw me coax my wife back? Clearly, it was just a little more patience and a little more love, slowly seeping into his wife's heart. The next day, Arbor leisurely strolled to the entrance of the first sanctum, after having his lunch to check on those unlucky fellows. Lilan Ma Weixian, and the other three had been waiting for the whole night. They had been suppressing their emotions and couldn't control their wild thoughts. He thought that those people would definitely appear the next morning. Unexpectedly, stay up late, and the others, who had come to open the shop, didn't even look at them. They walked around them and went into the building to do business as usual. Although the others looked at them curiously from time to time, no one dared to touch them. Naturally, no one would meddle in their business. Ma Weixian's group of four waited left and right. Only at noon did they see the stoic face leading a group of people over. Li Lan's emotions were about to break down. When she saw Arbor and the others coming over, she couldn't resist shouting anxiously, "Madam Mo, I know my mistake. Let us go, let us go." Xiao Mu's small stoic face frostily swept an indifferent glance over them. "Didn't you want to capture my son?" Chapter 5587. What? We're not going to catch him anymore, Arbor said in a mocking tone. Did these people think they were so smart that they could plot something just by finding a secluded place? They didn't know that when she first came to the sacred region, she already knew that this place was special and had no cover. In order to ensure the safety of her group, she had sent shamans and magic eyes everywhere in the eastern domain of the holy domain on the first day she arrived. Demon Pupil was hidden in the thick fog. As long as it wasn't destroyed by the water spirit, it could continuously send her the information she wanted. Therefore, these people thought that they were secretly plotting something, but in fact, Arbor had already seen it. Moreover, other than Aoyi, Baby Mo also had many people secretly protecting him. How could he be kidnapped by these trash? That was simply wishful thinking. Who came up with this idea? Arbor asked coldly. In fact, she already knew that Zhao Guzi had always been the strategist in this small team of four. She only asked this because she was bored and wanted to see a good dog-eat-dog show. Him. As expected, Li Lan and Sage Mulberry pointed at Zhao Guzi without hesitation. Ma Weixian said with a pained expression, "Didn't you say that we're brothers? Why do you only want to cut ties when something happens? When brothers are in trouble, shouldn't they advance and retreat together?" "You're really naive," Arbor said coldly and looked at Ma Weixian a few more times. This person was missing an arm, but he wasn't stupid. His three brothers all had ulterior motives. How could they not see it? "Since you came up with this idea, you should cripple one of your arms and one of your legs," Arbor said coldly, and casually threw a spirit dagger into Zhao Guzi's barrier. Zhao Guzi, like the other three, had been trapped in this defensive array for a long time. At this moment his whole body was cold. His fingers trembled as he picked up the dagger from the ground. He stared coldly at Arbor. A woman's heart was truly the most vicious. They didn't catch the child at all. Instead, they were played by the child. Now this young madam actually wanted him to cripple one of his arms and legs. Wasn't this too much? You think it's too much? Arbor couldn't help but sneer. If it weren't for my son's powerful support yesterday, I would be the one sitting here crying today. Do you think you're being wronged? You clearly didn't succeed, so why should I find fault with you? Just because it didn't succeed, it doesn't mean it hasn't been done before. If my son is deceived by you and suffers any mishap, then today, you won't just leave behind your hands and feet. Xiao Mu gazed at them coldly, and her voice abruptly turned even colder. I want all of you to not be able to enter the Yellow Springs, or the underworld. You won't be able to control your life and death. Li Lan felt a chill run down her spine. She looked at Arbor as if he was a ghost from hell. She regretted it so much that her intestines turned green. If he hadn't listened to Zhao Guzi's words, he wouldn't have been so stupid as to jump into this matter. She shouldn't have come in the first place. In the sacred realm, if she offended someone more powerful than herself, no one would help her if someone came to seek revenge. Very few people were able to make friends in the sacred region. Most of them lived their lives alone. Therefore, Arbor and his group of more than 30 people ascending to the sacred realm together was simply the most sensational and rare thing in 100 years for others. Duanzong. Arbor suddenly thought of something and called out. Chapter 5588. A middle-aged man hurriedly jogged over from the crowd behind and asked with a drooling expression, Dunjizu is here. Dunjizu is here. Little master, what are your orders? Venerable Peach Blossom stood beside Emolien and raised his hand to cover his eyes, looking as if he could not bear to watch. Little Taisui could not help but scold. Dunjizu, look at what you've become. A wretched old face with a puppy's expression asking for a bone. What an eyesore. In any case, Dunjizu used to be the tower guardian of the Tower of Punishment. How did he become such a dog now? Dunjizu turned his head and glared at little Taisui. If it weren't for you, would I be in this state today? What's wrong with me? Is this wretched appearance me? It's all because of that Gung Pingcheng's wretched appearance. Do you think I want this? Little Taisui was rendered speechless by the barrage of attacks. Emolien could not help but want to laugh. She reached out and patted the gloomy little Taisui's head. Little Taisui was instantly enraged. Because of his short stature, he was always patted on the head by others. It was infuriating. Brother Dunjizu. Dao Wuji crossed his arms and looked at him with a smile. From what I see, if Manor Lord Gung was still alive, he would definitely not show such a wretched face. Whether one was handsome or not depended on the person. Dunjizu was so angry that he ignored them and kept asking Jojo, Master, did you find me a good-looking body? Arbor nodded and pointed at the 4 people in front of him. Dunjizu immediately exclaimed, Them? His voice sounded like a dying duck. Lord Jojo frowned unhappily. Are you not satisfied with any of these 4 people? Master, look at the 4 of them. Which one of them meets my requirements? His master was expressionless. Your requirements are too high. You despised the dozen or so people I found for you previously, because their cultivation levels were too low. Any one of the 4 today has a cultivation level above Mystique Venerable Realm. What else do you dislike? Master. Dunjizu quickly brainwashed his troublesome little master. Look. That old man is so old. How can he do it? The one with only 1 arm. Master, you wouldn't want me to have an incomplete body, would you? Arbor continued to be expressionless. Isn't that Zhao Guzi over there pretty good? His body is healthy, he doesn't lack any arms or legs, and his cultivation is decent as well. He completely meets your requirements. If you're satisfied, then I won't let him harm himself. No. Dunjun immediately cried out in horror. Absolutely not, master. He's too ugly. Everyone held back their laughter as the corners of their mouths twitched. The little master was furious. What kind of person are you looking for? Dunjun pointed behind her. Arbor turned his head and glanced at the group of pretty boys led by Emolien. Their eyes were filled with innocence. Jojo was furious. You've been in the sanctuary for so many days. Other than Master Dongfang and Master Bei, have you found anyone worth looking at? All of them are ugly. You're not good at this and that, and you're picking all of them. Are you trying to anger me to death? Master, calm down. Dunjun sobbed, which made the group of pretty boys behind her laugh to death. This person was actually imitating Qiuqiu's tone and acting cute. However, his old Gung Pingcheng face was a little scary when he acted cute. Arbor glanced at him and pointed at Li Lan, who looked inexplicably frightened. This one is quite pretty. Chapter 5589. Sovereign Peach Blossom couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing on the spot. The background music behind this laugh turned into laughter. Arbor glared at them angrily. What are you laughing at? Wasn't she pretty good? She completely met the requirements of the plant. Her face was beautiful, and her figure was curvaceous. Gung Pingcheng's eyes widened in horror, and the muscles on his aged face started trembling lightly in front of Qiao Mu. He suddenly jumped back a step and covered his chest with his hands. His face looked like he would rather die than submit. He screamed in shock. Ma master, titi that emo xing brew? That mouthful of vegetable cold liangxia. He was so shocked that the tone of his voice changed. Even his pronunciation was wrong. Everyone couldn't help but twitch their lips. Arbor said expressionlessly, Don't you like beauty? I'm a man. Dunjuang covered his chest with his hands. He widened his eyes and looked like he would rather die than submit. My innocence is not allowed to be tarnished. Whimsical, Master was really whimsical. He actually wanted to provide him with a female body. How could he allow that? Everyone was speechless. Arbor couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. He waved at him with a headache. Okay, you can leave. Dunju hurriedly slipped away. Yenna ran to Ma Shurchen's side and hugged his arm. Ma Master, are you crazy? Little Tai Sui took a glance at the two of them, and its eyes suddenly lit up as it teased. Not bad. I think your little Master Silver has good taste. Are you instigating me? Tun Tun stuttered again, glaring angrily at the little Tai Sui, before furtively peeking at Xiao Mu standing over there. He was only afraid that his little master would lose his mind and be slandered by the little Tai Sui, which would destroy his happy life in the future. Isn't that so? Little Tai Sui glanced at the two of them leisurely. Venerable Peach Blossom expressionlessly stood next to Emolien and Duan Yu, one arm firmly held by Duan Jia. From what I can see, back when we were in the tower, I already felt that the relationship between the two of you wasn't quite right. Emolien and Duan Yu both twitched their mouths at the same time. They suddenly felt that they were standing a bit too close, so the two of them tacitly moved away from each other. Little Tai Sui continued to expose. At that time, in order to let you out, Duan Zhuang was even willing to risk his life. Speaking of which, it was true love. That's right. True love is nothing more than that. Everlasting Blade nodded in agreement. Think about it. If Duan Zhuang becomes a woman, won't the two of you be together forever? Little Tai Sui couldn't help but shudder at this point. Dun Zhuang immediately let go of He Chen's hand, and He Chen quickly ran to Feng Chongqing and his brother's side, standing 18 feet away from Dun Zhuang. I don't like men. Venerable Peach Blossom said immediately. I know. Infinite Blade laughed out loud. Isn't he talking about turning into a woman? Dunzong. Master, I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to live anymore. I don't want to live anymore. How dare they tease me like that? Everyone. Sir Jojo. After a while there was silence. Everyone thought that this matter was over. But Sir Jojo suddenly said in all seriousness, actually, if it's true love, it's probably not a problem even if the gender is the same, right? Everyone. They all glared at Emolien. Did you teach Jojo something improper? The latter. Chapter 5590. Emolien quickly distanced herself from Duan Yu and waved her hand at him. Stay away from me. Duan Yu also despised him. She usually felt that Jojo's gaze was a bit strange when he looked at them. It turned out that this guy was spouting nonsense beside Jojo's ear when he had nothing to do, causing her mind to be filled with all sorts of strange thoughts. I think you should check what books Jojo has been reading recently. Isn't it a medical book? Duan Yu rolled his eyes. When I was reading when I was young, I habitually put a storybook in between my books. Emolien immediately snorted. No wonder you're so unreliable. When I was young, I was obediently reading history and learning national policy. Scram. Duan Yu turned his head away and ignored him. On the other end, Dunju sobbed, which annoyed Sir Jojo. He glared at him and roared. All right, what are you crying for? Since you're not satisfied, then look again. What was there to cry about? Look at how miserable he was. He wanted nothing more than to cry to the heavens of the holy domain. Actually, Mata suddenly said hesitantly, I think that Zhao Guzi is a bit better than his current body. How was Gung Pengcheng's old face better than Zhao Guzi's wretched face? Everyone was silent for a moment before nodding in agreement. Zhao Guzi's body had broken through to Mystique Venerable Realm after all. Although his looks were passable, he was honestly a bit better than the wretched Gung Pengcheng. Dunju widened his eyes and frantically shook his head. No. Master, you promised me, sob. All right. Sir Jojo was a bit impatient. I'll look for you next time. Dunju whispered. Actually, it's not like I don't have a choice. Master, the body you preserved in the ice coffin is not bad. Fuck, Dunju really dared to dream. Everyone looked at Dunju sympathetically. Sure enough, Jojo roared at him. Shut up. An ominous glint flashed in his eyes, and he chased after him, wanting to beat him up. Dunjing was frightened and subconsciously ran towards Venerable Peach Blossom. The corner of Feng Zhongqing's mouth twitched. He hurriedly raised his hand to stop Arbor, who was running over, and comforted him. Okay, don't be fooled by Dunzong's age. He is old but not wise. He's just spouting nonsense. Don't hit him. Feng Zhongfei also nodded. That's right. The more you fight, the more stupid you become. All of them glared angrily at him. The Venerable Peach Blossom God raised his hand and patted Dunzong's head. He muttered softly, You dare to think about the body of that Qin. Don't you feel disgusted? Besides, Jojo had always been a stubborn and soft-hearted little thing. Although she didn't say it, she had always tried to save Qin Xian. Unfortunately, that person's divine soul had been struck by young Master Omega Kotoka's thunder fire, and gradually, his divine soul had dissipated. Whether it was the soul-returning pill, or the soul-returning pill, the reason why it was effective on by Wuxia and Murong Sun was that at least their divine consciousnesses were intact. But this person was in a completely different situation. Nurturing a soul was easy to say, but very difficult to do. If Jojo wanted to nurture eldest Qin's soul, it would be difficult to recover within 100 years. As for 100 years later, it seemed a bit too far away. Who knew what would happen then? Dunju let out an aggrieved "oh" and quietly said, I just think that he looks alright. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.